Chapter 454, That Woman Should Die. Gu Dajiang was stunned. He really didn't expect her to have been to Qingan Prefecture. He pursed his lips and frowned. Back then, I thought that you would wait for me in Qingan Prefecture, so I kept looking for you there. Later on, he lowered his voice. I bumped into your aunt later. Gu Yue. Gu Yundong was flabbergasted. Isn't she dead? Dead? Gu Dajiang frowned. When did she die? She was still alive when I met her. Although he and Gu Yue were siblings, their relationship was really weak. It could even be said that they had become enemies. From his tone, it was obvious. I met my uncle. He said so. However, this was not important. What happened after you met my aunt? She said that you came to Wanqing Prefecture. Actually, I didn't believe her at first. However, Gu Dajiang later asked around. There were indeed a few people who told him that they had met such a family that had gone to Wanqing Prefecture before the Qingan Prefecture fell into chaos. That was why he came to Wanqing Prefecture. Later on, he met the Yu family. He didn't expect the Yu family to receive Yundong's help. Even the Yu family said that they were coming this way. That was why Gu Dajiang had been looking for them in Wanqing Prefecture for more than half a year. Gu Yundong sighed inwardly. It was really a freak combination of factors. They missed each other just like that. If she had gone to Wanqing Prefecture back then, wouldn't they have met sooner? However, Gu Yue was the one who deserved to die. Others might have really seen them moving this way, but Gu Yue knew very well back then. She had even asked Fu Ming to bring Master Qian to chase after them and wanted to sell her nephew and niece. Anger rose in Gu Yundong's heart. It would be best if Gu Yue was dead. If she was not, Gu Yundong would kill her. She snorted coldly. Seeing the fatigue flash across Gu Dajiang's face, she knew that she had said too much. She would talk about this slowly in the future. He was still injured and should be resting. She had neglected it. Father, you're still injured. It's more important to recover first. Now that we're reunited, there's plenty of time to talk in the future. I still have many things to tell you. Okay. He had found his wife and children, so he naturally had to live well. Recovering from his injuries was most important. He could not go back to see his wife and children like this. By the way, eat something first. I've been asking the waiter to prepare sweet porridge. Father, fill your stomach first. Then, drink the medicine prescribed by the doctor before you rest. As she spoke, she hurriedly opened the door and let the waiter bring the warm porridge over. Gu Dajiang looked at Gu Yundong's back and smiled. Gu Yundong fed him small bites. It was not easy for him to finish it. After drinking the medicine, he really wanted to sleep. She reached out and adjusted Gu Dajiang's pillow. His back was injured, so he could only lie on his stomach or sideways. He couldn't move too much, or it was easy to pull at his wound. Gu Dajiang was really tired and his body hurt a lot. He actually couldn't bear to close his eyes. He wanted to see his daughter more. However, he really couldn't take it anymore. As soon as he closed his eyes, he quickly fell asleep. Tong Shuitao only returned when the sky was about to turn dark. When she heard that Gu Dajiang had woken up, she immediately became happy. Miss, go and rest. I'll guard master. You keep watch for the first half of the night. I'll do it for the second. All right. Gu Yundong went to the room next door to rest, but she did not sleep well. She was always worried that something would happen to Gu Dajiang. Before midnight, she came over to replace Tong Shuitao. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. Gu Dajiang didn't have a fever, and his injuries were recovering. Chapter 455, Yundong is really good looking. After dawn, Dr. Yu came over again. After showing it to Gu Dajiang, he heaved a sigh of relief. I'll change his bandage first. Continue taking the medicine I prescribed yesterday. Thank you, Dr. Yu. Gu Dajiang was in a deep sleep, but he was still woken up by the pain of changing the bandage. When Dr. Yu saw him open his eyes, he smiled kindly. How do you feel? Does it hurt anywhere? Do you feel choked or difficult to breathe? Gu Dajiang quickly realized his identity. No, other than the pain in my wound, everything else is fine. With that, he hurriedly went to look for Gu Yundong. When he saw that she was still there, he heaved a sigh of relief. Except, how did his daughter become so good-looking? She had washed off her thick eyebrows from yesterday and changed her clothes. These clothes looked expensive and her face was rosy. She was actually more beautiful than before. After Dr. Yu changed the bandage and gave some instructions, he left. Gu Yundong walked to the edge of the bed and sat down. Seeing that Gu Dajiang was staring at her, she could not help but find it strange. Father, what are you looking at? Gu Dajiang paused and smiled. Yundong is really good-looking. Gu Yundong immediately felt a little embarrassed. How can a father praise his daughter like that? Father is telling the truth. He looked very proud. Unfortunately, he was injured and couldn't even lift his head. At the thought of his injury, Gu Yundong could not help but frown. Father, why did the Axian family hit you so ruthlessly? They almost killed you. As she asked this question, Gu Yundong's face was instantly filled with anger and a hint of killing intent. She didn't know how her father had offended the Axian family, but with her father's personality, he definitely wouldn't offend them to the point of getting himself killed. She wasn't going to let this go. Gu Dajiang lowered his eyes slightly and thought of everything in the Axian residence. He slowly closed his eyes. After a while, he looked up and smiled. It's nothing. Am I not fine? It's over. If father doesn't want to tell me, I'll go to the Axian family to ask myself. Yundong. Gu Yundong pursed her lips tightly and looked at him firmly. Gu Dajiang smiled bitterly. How did you become so stubborn? Father, go ahead. Gu Dajiang sighed secretly and said in a low voice, 2 days ago, I heard that the second young master of the Axian family wants to take in a concubine. That concubine's surname is Gu and her name is Gu Yundong. Gu Yundong's body suddenly froze. The words of the woman she had heard when she had disguised herself and sneaked into the kitchen of the Axian residence flashed across her mind. Yes, there was a concubine with the same name as hers in the Axian manor. Father thought, it was me. No wonder. No wonder he was unwilling to say it just now. Was he afraid that she would blame herself? Gu Dajiang nodded. I heard that concubine Gu is from the countryside and fled here. She's 15 or 16 years old and is also good-looking. Moreover, she wasn't willing to be a concubine and was forcefully taken over by second young master. To get her, they even captured her mother and threatened her with her mother's life. All the signs indicated that this was most likely his daughter and wife. Gu Dajiang panicked. It wasn't so easy for him to find out anything else. However, at this moment, his wife and daughter were forced to become concubines and had no way of asking for help. He could not sit still. Gu Dajiang tried his best to sneak into the Axian residence. He was capable. It was not easy to enter the Axian family, but he found his way in. However, that was not the case at all. Chapter 456, Those three bastards. That person called Gu Yundong was indeed unwilling at first, but her mother was not captured by the second young master. Her mother voluntarily helped the second young master trick her daughter into coming in. Moreover, concubine Gu had only been in the Axian residence for a day, but she was already bewitched by the riches inside and willingly became the concubine of the second young master of the Axian residence. Gu Dajiang did not find out about this at first. As a complete stranger, he anxiously asked around for Gu Yundong's residence. After hiding in the Axian residence for a day, he was discovered. As it happened, it was the wife of the second young master of the Axian family, who was the daughter of the current prefecture magistrate of Wanqing Prefecture. When she saw Gu Dajiang, she also received news that this person was getting close to concubine Gu. Second young madam smiled. After sizing Gu Dajiang up, she suspected his relationship with concubine Gu. I heard that concubine Gu has a father. You're so concerned about her. Could you be her father? Gu Dajiang immediately denied it. Seeing this, second young madam became even more certain. Why are you nervous? Are you afraid that he'll use you to threaten concubine Gu? Gu Dajiang refused to admit it even more badly. However, regardless of whether second young madam was really certain or just in a bad mood, she said, if you admit your relationship with concubine Gu, I'll let you go. If you don't admit it, you're a thief who barged into my Axian manor. When she said this, her eyes turned sharp. She directly said to the guard of the Axian family, break his fingers. This is the price for daring to break into the Axian residence. Gu Dajiang didn't even have time to explain before his fingers were pressed to the ground. The guard knocked him over with a stick. He fell back in pain, but a maid behind him poured a hot teapot on him. In an instant, he was so hot that his entire body convulsed and his shoulders immediately blistered. However, his torture was not over yet. Someone had told concubine Gu. Concubine Gu brought second young master over and said that second young madam had deliberately found someone to impersonate her father to ruin her reputation. Only then did Gu Dajiang realize that he had mistaken her for someone else. Concubine Gu wasn't his daughter. Although her family had fled here, they had fled here when their ancestors were still alive. Second young master naturally could not reprimand second young madam. He was already in the wrong for taking a concubine. However, concubine Gu was his new favorite and she was still new. He had to stand up for her, right? Hence, he pushed all the blame to Gu Dajiang. He said that the man had pretended to be concubine Gu's father to enter the residence and swindle others, which was simply detestable. He got the guards to beat him up 20 times. Those people only threw him out when he was on the verge of death. Gu Yundong trembled when she heard that. These bastards did not care about human lives at all. One was to vent her anger. One was to trample on others in order to fight for favor. One was trying to pacify his wife and please his concubine for the sake of having 2 women. That was why they could casually take her father's life. Gu Yundong quickly lowered her head to prevent her father from seeing the fierceness in her eyes. I'm fine. Look, if not for this, I wouldn't have been able to see you, right? Gu Dajiang comforted her. Gu Yundong looked up and forced a smile. No, without this, she would have been able to see Gu Dajiang safe and sound in the Yu family, not the father who was on the verge of death and was sweating from the pain. Gu Yundong took a deep breath and suppressed her anger. At this moment, Tong Shuetao entered the house. She leaned close to Gu Yundong's ear nervously and said, Miss, something seems to have happened. Chapter 457, Are they looking for us? Gu Dajiang was stunned when he saw Tong Shuetao. And what did she call Yundong just now? Miss? He looked at the 2 of them in shock. Only then did Tong Shuetao realize that Gu Dajiang had woken up. She hurriedly said respectfully, Master. Gu Dajiang was speechless. Gu Yundong asked Tong Shuetao, what happened? The latter suddenly reacted. She glanced at Gu Dajiang and lowered her voice even more. Only Gu Yundong could hear her. Young miss, I was at the entrance of the inn just now and saw the second young master of the Axian family coming over aggressively with 2 guards. Do you think he knows that we brought old master back and is here to settle the score? Gu Yundong stood up. I'll go out and take a look. Take care of my father. Yes, my lady. Gu Yundong opened the door and saw a rich man's son entering the inn with 2 guards. He was walking upstairs. Why would the second young master of the Xue family be so free? He even intervened when someone they didn't care about had been saved, and even personally brought people to settle the score. Gu Yundong felt that it was unlikely. As expected, although the young master came up, he turned around and walked in another direction. Soon, the innermost room in the corridor was opened by a middle-aged man, who respectfully invited him in. As for the 2 guards at the back, they stopped at the door and stood outside dutifully. Before the middle-aged man closed the door, he said to the waiter outside, "Go make a pot of good tea." "Yes." The waiter immediately turned around and went downstairs. Gu Yundong narrowed her eyes and immediately turned to enter the room beside her. She found the coarse linen clothes she had worn yesterday and quickly changed. Then, she casually stuffed her hair into her hat. Her eyebrows were thick, and her face was dark. Finally, he changed his shoes and came out. Coincidentally, the waiter had just gone upstairs. Gu Yundong quickly took out a gun from her space. It was a toy gun. Because it was too vivid, Gu Yundong used it to scare people. After all, in the apocalypse, all kinds of demons and ghosts had appeared after losing their humanity. When they saw good-looking women, they felt that they were easy to bully. Gu Yundong had scared many people away with this toy gun. The bullet of this gun was round like a sugar bowl. It would not hurt anyone, but it would definitely hurt the victim when shot from the muzzle. She aimed at the waiter's knee and fired 2 shots. The waiter bent his knees and almost threw the tray in his hand. Gu Yundong was responsive and quickly supported him with one hand and the tray with the other. She asked in a low voice, "Are you all right?" The waiter gasped and looked up. "Miss Gu. Why are you dressed like this again?" "I have something to do outside. It's more convenient to dress like this." Gu Yundong helped her up and asked, "How are you?" "I don't know why, but my legs seem to have been hit by something." The waiter turned his head and looked, but he didn't find any stones. "It hurts a little. I think you should sit over there and rest first." But, he glanced awkwardly at the tray in his hand. Gu Yundong smiled. "I'll send it to you." "Huh?" The waiter was surprised. "Aren't you going out?" "I don't have anything urgent to do. I'm just delivering tea. It'll be done soon." "Which room should I send it to?" As Gu Yundong spoke, she had already accepted the tray. Chapter 458, Secret Recording. The waiter subconsciously pointed to the innermost room. Gu Yundong nodded. "All right, I'll do it. You've been helping me run errands for the past 2 days. Take it as my thanks." Before anyone could react, she had already left with the tray. Only then did the waiter reach out and rub the bend of his leg. Then, he stood up straight and walked for a while. It didn't hurt anymore. He let out a sigh of relief and immediately thought about it. That's not right. He was so diligent in running errands for Miss Gu because he wanted a bonus. Could it be that Miss Gu was helping him deliver tea because she didn't want to pay him? The waiter cursed and wanted to change back. But when he walked over, he realized that it was too late. Gu Yundong had already knocked on the door and entered in a flash. There were only 2 people in the room. One was a young master. He was the second young master of the Xue family, Zhiyuan. Opposite him was a middle-aged man. No one knew who he was. The 2 of them stopped talking when they saw her enter. Zhiyuan even stood up and instructed the 2 guards to remind him to buy something when they returned. After Gu Yundong put down the teapot and poured a cup for each of them, the middle-aged man said, "All right, you can leave." "All right, please enjoy," Gu Yundong said in a rough voice and turned to leave. Unbeknownst to anyone, she had placed a recording pen in the compartment under the table and covered it with a tablecloth before leaving. The phone she used to scare Ping Zhongfei last time was almost out of battery. It was better not to take it out. Moreover, the phone was too big of a target and would be easily discovered. The recording pen was small, so it was easier to hide. Gu Yundong held the tray and left the room respectfully with her back arched. It was only when she walked out of the two guards' sight that she straightened her back. Unexpectedly, before she could go downstairs, she saw the waiter walking over anxiously. Miss Gu, actually, you don't have to help me. You're a guest of the inn. How can I tire you out? Besides, it's only right for me to run errands for you. You even rewarded me last time. Gu Yundong was so angry that she wanted to laugh. She threw the tray to him. All right, it's just a small matter. Look at how nervous you are. I won't tell your shopkeeper that you're lazy. The waiter wiped the sweat from his forehead and smiled awkwardly. Gu Yundong gave him a piece of silver. Let me ask you something else. The waiter's eyes suddenly lit up and he heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Miss Gu still needed him. It seemed that she was really kind just now. She was indeed a beautiful and kind girl. He immediately patted his chest and said, Miss, if you want to know anything, feel free to ask. I want to ask, where is the nearest fair brokerage? Miss, do you want to buy servants? Yes. This was not a problem. The waiter quickly told Gu Yundong about the two most reputable brokers in the vicinity. So you're dressed like this to buy someone from the brokerage. That's good. You don't look like you'll be easily scammed. If she dressed like a young lady from a rich family, those people in the brokerage would definitely treat her as an ignorant girl. Gu Yundong was speechless. She nodded affirmatively. Yes. As she spoke, someone called for the waiter. He quickly turned around and went downstairs. Only then did Gu Yundong shake her head and push open Gu Dajiang's room. Unexpectedly, the moment she entered, she saw Gu Dajiang and Tong Shuitao looking at each other in silence. Chapter 459, Fatherly Love. Gu Yundong closed the door and asked curiously, What's wrong? Tong Shuitao shrank her neck and looked a little guilty. On the other hand, Gu Dajiang turned to look at his daughter and saw that she was wearing the same clothes as yesterday. Although he felt strange, he didn't ask further. However, he glanced at Tong Shuitao and said, This. Miss Tong said that she's the maidservant you bought. Her entire family is servants of the Gu family. At this moment, Gu Dajiang still didn't know that there were 6 people in the Tong family. He thought that it was just her parents and her. Gu Yundong looked at Tong Shuitao, who laughed dryly. I thought Miss had spoken to Master, so Gu Yundong could not help but laugh. She had thought that something was up. Father, I have something to tell you too. I plan to buy 2 more servants to take care of you. She sat beside Gu Dajiang. Seeing that he was in good spirits, she couldn't help but smile. Gu Dajiang was stunned. He wanted to shake his head, but he realized that it was inconvenient. He hurriedly said, No need, no need. Why would I need servants? Father, you're injured now. Someone has to take care of you. She and Tong Shuitao were both women, so it was inconvenient for them to wipe his body. Previously, she had asked the waiter to help, but he was already very busy. Yesterday, he had helped Dr. Yu for most of the day and was even scolded by the shopkeeper. If it weren't for the silver bonus, he probably wouldn't have treated her well today. Gu Dajiang also reacted. He did need help in this state. Previously, it was Dr. Yu who had brought him the chamber pot for him to relieve himself. Embarrassment flashed across his face. He agreed after all, but 1 is enough. I don't need 2. It'll be better soon. Don't waste money. Gu Yundong squatted down. Father, I'm doing a small business now. I have money. Although it's not much, it's enough to buy 2 servants. Yes, compared to the Axian residents, she was still very poor. However, Gu Dajiang had a serious expression. Just one. It's not easy to do small business now. Save the silver as your dowry in the future. His daughter was already 15 years old. She would be of marriageable age soon. When the time came, it would be time to discuss marriage. In the past, when he was in the old Gu family, he was worried that his father and stepmother would cause trouble and that Yundong would not be able to find a good husband. Now that he had left the place and Yundong was so good, she would definitely be very happy in the future. Thinking of this, Gu Dajiang couldn't help but feel relieved. Seeing how insistent he was, Gu Yundong had no choice but to agree. Father, rest first. I'll be back soon. Be careful. When you look at people, don't judge them by their appearance. You have to see if they're honest. Those brokers are very smart. We won't buy any if the price is high. We can hire people too. Also, remember to buy just one. When Gu Yundong went out, she could still hear his worried reminders. Her heart was warm and sour. This was the love of an old father. Even though he knew that she already started her own small business, even though he knew that she could bring his mother and siblings all the way to the Shuanhe prefecture, in his heart, she was still a child who had not grown up. No matter what she did, he would always be worried. Although Madame Yang was her mother, her situation was special. She looked more like her child. Now, in front of Gu Dajiang, she was the daughter who needed his care, even though he was lying in bed and couldn't do anything. Gu Yundong's smile widened. Looking at the sky outside, it seemed to be filled with joy from head to toe. Chapter 460, Xue Rong. When they arrived at the brokerage, Gu Yundong looked for the broker that the waiter had introduced. Hearing that she only planned to buy one person, the broker was still smiling and her attitude was exceptionally enthusiastic. Miss, are you planning to buy a man or a woman? What's the age requirement? Is there any taboo? Gu Yundong did not speak in a rough voice. It was too tiring. She had changed into men's clothes purely to deliver tea to the second young master of the Axian family. Now that she spoke, her voice was delicate and tender. The broker immediately recognized her gender. Gu Yundong sat in the reception room and took a sip of tea before saying, I want a man. He must be agile, honest, and strong. There's no taboo. All right, wait a moment, Mississippi. The broker smiled and went out. After a while, she brought a row of men in. This prefectural city was different from the county city. There were many people. Gu Yundong raised her head and listened to the broker's introduction. This one used to be a stable driver. The previous owner thought that his driving was unsteady, so he sold him. This person is selling himself. He escaped from the Yongning prefecture previously and was arranged to live in a remote village when he settled down. He really can't survive. The broker described the experiences one by one, but Gu Yundong was not satisfied with them all. She was looking for someone to take care of Gu Dajiang's recuperation. Most men were careless, especially these people. Although they looked honest, they were also clumsy. Not only would they not do their job well, but they would also worsen her father's condition. Seeing that she was dissatisfied, the broker immediately waved her hand and let these people leave. Miss, what are you planning to do with the servant? To take care of a patient. After thinking for a while, Gu Yundong added, it's best if they have such an experience or used to be an apprentice in the medical hall and pharmacy. Do you have any? The broker was stunned for a moment. She thought for a moment and said, there is one. This person's original young master's body was weak all year round. He had served the young master for a few years and is a meticulous person. However, that young master's condition worsened once and he was in danger. His mother said that these servants didn't serve him well and killed two of them. The rest were sold. Yundong raised his eyebrows. From the meaning of her words, the servants were innocent victims who took the blame. She nodded. Tell the man to come. I'll take a look. The broker quickly brought him over. He was a man in his early 20s and looked very thin and weak. There was no expression on his face. Yundong asked him a few questions, but he tried his best to make it clear with the least amount of words. Yundong was pleasantly surprised. Although this person was taciturn, he spoke clearly and was very organized. Moreover, he was very clear about the things to take note of when taking care of a patient. Although he was thin, he was quite strong. Then. The broker's face lit up. All right, then I'll prepare the contract for you now. She was actually relieved. This person was not easy to sell. It was mainly because everyone felt that it was very unlucky that the guy had served a patient who did not end well. He had been in the brokerage for a few months, but he had not been sold. The man was also a little surprised, but he quickly calmed down. Yundong waited until they left the brokerage before asking with interest, "Your name is Xue Rong, right? Who was your previous master?" Xue Rong paused for a moment and answered simply, "Xian family." Yundong stopped in her tracks. The Xian family. Was it the Xian family that she knew about? Chapter 461, Xian Zhiyuan left. That's right. Yundong remembered that the eldest young master of the Xian family seemed to be in poor health all year round. So, Xue Rong had served the eldest young master of the Xian family. This was really beyond her expectations. No wonder Xue Rong looked like he had undergone professional training. His silence was probably a habit he had developed in the Xian residence. He seemed to be a cautious person. Xue Rong also raised his head slightly to look at his new master. He thought that if the other party knew that he was sold by the Xian family, she would ask him some questions or return him. But Yundong did not mention a word about the Xian family all the way to the inn. She only instructed him, "You have to take care of my father. He's injured, and the doctor said that he needs to recuperate for a period of time. Since you're experienced and know how to take care of others, you must know more about what to pay attention to than I do. Well, stay in the inn for the time being. You'll share a room with my father. As for the rest, you'll slowly understand in the future." "Yes, my lady." Yundong nodded and the two of them went upstairs. As she turned the corner, she glanced to the other side and saw that the two guards were still standing at the door. It seemed that they had not left. After entering the house, Tong Shuitao immediately looked over and whispered, "Miss, master is asleep." Yundong's actions instantly softened. He introduced Xue Rong to her before bringing him to the edge of the bed. "This is my father, Dajiang. I've told you about his injuries. If you have any questions, ask Shuitao." Xue Rong agreed. Yundong looked at Dajiang again before leaving. She had to keep an eye on Xian Zhiyuan's door and see when he was leaving. She was going to retrieve the recording pen. Yundong went downstairs and asked the waiter for lunch. She ate slowly while waiting. There were a lot of people in the lobby. No one would notice her if she sat in the corner. About half an hour later, someone finally appeared at the staircase on the second floor. Yundong narrowed her eyes. As expected, she saw Xian Zhiyuan coming down with two guards. Not only them, but the middle-aged man also came down. Good. Now there's no one in the room. The middle-aged man instructed the waiter, "Clean up my room." "All right," the waiter replied. He instructed the other waiter to look after the customers downstairs and went to the second floor. Yundong immediately put down her chopsticks and strode after him. She went straight to the innermost room and saw that the waiter was about to bring out the teapot. He was stunned for a moment when he saw her. "Miss, why are you here?" "I was looking for you," Yundong said as she walked inside. The waiter subconsciously asked, "Why are you looking for me?" He did not bother to stop Gu Yundong from entering. Gu Yundong leaned against the table. While the waiter was distracted by the noise downstairs, he quickly reached under the table and put the recording pen into his space. Then, she said, "Didn't I buy someone? I've already brought him back. He's staying in my father's room now. I want to ask you for an extra quilt for him to use. Also, send the lunch up." "That's easy. I'll send it over in a while. I'm not in a hurry. You can give it to him when you're free." With that, Gu Yundong left with a smile. She went straight into her room and locked the door before taking out the recording pen. She turned on the switch and listened to the contents quietly. Chapter 462, Abnormal Eldest Young Master. At first, there were some rustling sounds, but soon, the middle-aged man's voice sounded. "I heard that second young master has taken a concubine." "What? Uncle Wei even cares about this?" "Second young master, you've misunderstood. Uncle Wei is just worried that the prefecture magistrate will be unhappy." "So what if he's unhappy? Do you think he'll stand up for his daughter and cause trouble for our Xan family?" Xan Zhiyuan's mocking voice sounded. "My father-in-law is most concerned about fame and profit. Although the Xan family is his in-law, the interests of the two families are already closely linked. What he values is the Xan family." "What's a daughter?" Uncle Wei sighed. "In the end, it's not good to go too far. After all, we've slapped his face. He values the interests of the Xan family, but the second young master isn't the only master of the Xan family. Although eldest young master's body is weak, would the prefecture magistrate like him? He's a man with a strange heart. He listened to my mother's nonsense and brought those boys and girls back, hoping to make himself better. Look at how many evil deeds he's done. His hands are stained with so much blood. He's much more disgusting than me. The prefecture magistrate must hate him. Otherwise, why would he marry his daughter to me?" Gu Yundong suddenly stood up and almost knocked over the stool behind her. She gripped the recording pen in her hand tightly. What did Xan Zhiyuan just say? Boys and girls. Stained with blood. This eldest young master and that madam were actually not good people. These people from the Xan family were simply a nest of dirty rats. They stank all over, and the disgusting feeling emanating from their bones made Gu Yundong especially uncomfortable. She took a deep, slow breath and had a sip of water before she continued to play. Uncle Wei's anxious voice came from inside. Second young master, be careful with your words. You can't spread these words around. Otherwise, not only will your brother's reputation be ruined, but the entire Xan family will also be criticized. At that time, the one who will suffer the greatest loss will still be second young master. All right, I won't say anything, okay? Xan Zhiyuan seemed to be very impatient with Uncle Wei's teaching. However, the two of them seemed to have a good relationship. Uncle Wei should be a servant of the Xan family. Gu Yundong had also seen with her own eyes how respectful he was to Xan Zhiyuan. However, when they spoke now, there was a hint of intimacy and familiarity between the two of them. Xan Zhiyuan at least treated him as half an elder. Gu Yundong memorized Uncle Wei before continuing to listen. It was still Xan Zhiyuan who spoke. That trivial matter in our family is not worth talking about. Did you have any good news when you came back this time? Uncle Wei sighed. Everyone in the capital has already arranged for it. Those people took the money but didn't do anything. They know that the late emperor has died. Our Xan family isn't as popular as before, so all of them are shirking it. So you didn't get the sugar deal. White sugar is a business of the imperial court. The emperor can give it to whoever he wants. If the late emperor was still around, the white sugar business of Wanqing Prefecture would definitely belong to the Xan family. However, the current emperor values the Duan family more. The Duan family's momentum has not decreased in the past 2 years. If our Axian family did not have a good relationship with the prefecture magistrate, we would probably be trampled under the feet of the Duan family. However, the officials of the Axian family who were on good terms with the capital in the past are not related to the white sugar business. Moreover, the production of white sugar is limited. Every prefectural city won't obtain much. Xan Zhiyuan seemed to have stood up. Then should we give up on the sugar business? Not really. Actually, I also heard another piece of news this time. What? Chapter 463, Targeting the Gu family. It said that this method of making white sugar was developed by a farming family in the Xuanhe prefecture. Later on, they offered it to the imperial court. However, that farming family had always been making sugar and trading it. Therefore, the imperial court no longer found anyone to sell white sugar in the Xuanhe prefecture. A farmer. Xan Zhiyuan's voice was instantly filled with excitement. Gu Yundong suddenly frowned. Were they talking about her family? F***ck, she was actually targeted. Qin Wenjing, you big idiot, you have to stop them. Uncle Wei's voice sounded again. That's right. Unfortunately, we can't interfere with the Xuanhe prefecture. That prefecture magistrate Dai is not an ordinary person. Why can't we? It's not like we're going to take root in the Axian family and do business. Let's go to that farmer in secret and ask him to hand over the secret recipe for making sugar. We'll give him some benefits later. Won't everyone be happy? Uncle Wei said helplessly, so what if we obtain the secret recipe to make sugar? Do you dare to make it in private and sell it? Now, the business of white sugar is controlled by the imperial court. If the emperor finds out, the Axian family will not be in a good state. Xan Zhiyuan snorted coldly. Then, there was a hint of ruthlessness in his voice. Who said that I would sell it in Wanqing prefecture? Only the Duan family will take a fancy to a small prefectural city's business. Second young master, you mean, if Dajiang doesn't allow us to sell it, what about Lu country? What about Qing country? They must be coveting this white sugar, right? Uncle Wei took a deep breath. Young master, you. Do you know what you're talking about? The imperial court has white sugar. They can hold their heads high in front of other countries. If others want this white sugar, they have to beg the current emperor. If you do business with them, it won't be bad. The emperor will skin you alive. If we don't do business with them, are you really going to watch the Duan family step on our heads? Aye. But that won't do either. This isn't the time of the late emperor. Even if we have any connections with those two countries, we won't be discovered. The late emperor was muddle-headed. The current emperor is very shrewd. Xan Zhiyuan was a little unwilling. It can be less, that won't do either. Second young master, you should give up on this idea as soon as possible, Uncle Wei said. He probably realized that his tone was too cold, so he softened his tone. Second young master, be more patient. Why don't you wait for a while and see what the emperor thinks? If he really agrees to the Duan family, it won't be too late for us to take action. Uncle Wei continued, as for the white sugar, we can do as second young master said and go to that farmer to get the secret recipe first. Leave this matter to me. You can wait for news in the residence. All right. Xan Zhiyuan was still a little unwilling. Uncle Wei sighed and reiterated, don't contact those two countries. Wait for me to come back. I know. Xan Zhiyuan was impatient. Then, Uncle Wei, when are you leaving? In a few days. I just returned to Wanqing prefecture. I still have to tell your father about the situation. Then you can stay in the residence for the next few days. How can this compare to the residence? No need. It's convenient to stay here. I'm used to it. That was the end of the conversation. However, Gu Yundong's expression was as dark as water. She had thought that the three scumbags from the Xue family had caused her father to become like this. It was enough for her to settle scores with them. Unexpectedly, they had their eyes on her white sugar, trying to force them to hand over the secret recipe. Gu Yundong sneered, "In your dream." Dream. Chapter 464, Writing a Letter. Xue family, Xue family, Xue family. Gu Yundong's fingers tapped lightly on the table, and she put the recording pen back into her spatial storage. She would definitely not let the Xue family off. After all, even if she did not mind, the Xue family would still force her to hand over the secret recipe of the white sugar. Thus, she might as well make the first move. It was just that Gu Yundong was only a little farm girl in Yongfu village who had yet to reach adulthood. She only had more than 100 acres of land and a workshop. Compared to her, the Xue family was a colossus. Fortunately, the Xue family was courting death. Gu Yundong sneered. She took out a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone and began to write a letter in detail. In the letter to Qin Wenjing, not only did she say that the Xue family and the Wanqing family were colluding, but she also said that many young masters of the Xue family were looking for boys and girls. Of course, the most important thing was that the Xue family had many connections with the other two countries. She didn't mention anything about Gu Dajiang being beaten up. However, after thinking about it, she still had to talk about how the Xue family coveted her sugar and wanted to force her to hand over the secret recipe. After all, in Qin Wenheng's heart, Gu Yundong was not a busybody. Last time, she had warned him not to implicate her family in these dangers. How long had it been? Why would he take the initiative to write to him just because he knew about the messy situation in the Xue family? After writing this, she also analyzed the benefits that the imperial court would obtain after destroying the Xue family. The Xue family was currently dissatisfied with the fact that the imperial court valued the Duan family. They might secretly play tricks. Moreover, their family was rich. Didn't the imperial court lack money? This was delivered to the door. Coupled with getting rid of evil in name, it was killing two birds with one stone. When he was done, Gu Yundong took it and blew on it to dry the handwriting. It was just that the delivery of this letter was troublesome. The relay station usually sent messages to the officials, and she did not have a messenger pigeon. The journey of the civilians to send messages was slow and unreliable. If such an important letter was lost, it would be fatal. Gu Yundong thought for a long time and suddenly stopped tapping the table. She had an idea. After folding the letter in her hand, Gu Yundong stood up and was about to leave when she realized that it was getting dark outside. Gu Yundong frowned. Just then, there was a knock on the door, followed by Tong Shuetao's voice. "Mississippi. Come in." Tong Shuetao entered with a tray. "Miss, have dinner first." Gu Yundong rubbed her temples. Unknowingly, it was already so late. It seemed that she could only go out tomorrow. She placed the letter into her spatial storage. "How's my father?" "Master woke up once and found out that you were the one who hired Brother Xue to serve him. He even asked where you were. When he found out that Miss was busy, he didn't say anything. After taking the medicine, he fell asleep again." Tong Shuetao answered as she placed the food on the table. Gu Yundong nodded. The medicine prescribed by Dr. Yu had the effect of calming the mind and helping him sleep. Gu Dajiang needed more rest now. Moreover, she had heard from Grandpa Yu that her father worked day and night to find them and had very little time to rest. Just the day before she met him, he had snuck into the Xue family and did not sleep for the entire night. Now, it was a good time for him to recuperate. After dinner, Gu Yundong went to Gu Dajiang's room to take a look before returning to rest. The next morning, she got up and prepared to go out with the letter she had written yesterday. Unexpectedly, as soon as she opened the door, she saw Xue Rong coming out from next door. Moreover, it seemed like he was going out. Chapter 465, Old Father's Heart. When he saw Gu Yundong, Xue Rong greeted her respectfully. Gu Yundong asked, "Where are you going so early in the morning?" Replying to young miss, old master instructed me to go to the Yu family and bring his clothes over. Gu Yundong waved his hand. Don't go yet. As she spoke, she entered the house. Gu Dajiang had woken up and was lying on his side. His eyes were staring straight ahead, and no one knew what he was thinking. When he saw Gu Yundong, a trace of joy flashed across his face. Yundong is here. Father. Gu Yundong sat on the edge of the bed. Seeing that he was in good spirits, she relaxed slightly. Let Xue Rong take care of you here. I'll go to Grandpa Ye's house. Sigh, let Ah Rong go. Ah Rong. Gu Yundong raised his eyebrows and turned to look at Xue Rong. She wouldn't have known while this person was quiet. In just half a day, he made Tong Shuetao call him Brother Xue and her father called him Ah Rong. Xue Rong pursed his lips. He still looked the same, quiet and obedient. Gu Yundong smiled and turned to Gu Dajiang. Father, I originally planned to go to Grandpa Ye's house. I happened to have something to ask him for help with. Besides, they took good care of you some time ago. Logically speaking, I should go over personally to thank them. Yes, you should indeed thank them, Gu Dajiang agreed. Then, he frowned. But you don't know that the people living near the Yu family are very messy. It's not safe for a girl like you to go over. How about this? Let Ah Rong accompany you. I'm already much better today. It's fine without him taking care of me. Father, I can go alone. No, I'm worried. Why don't you let Ah Rong accompany you? Or let Ah Rong go on your behalf? Gu Yundong choked. Along the way, she had always made her own decisions. But now, facing her father who cared about her, there were some things that she could not refuse. Sighing, Gu Yundong could only nod. All right, I'll get Xue Rong to accompany me. Gu Dajiang revealed a smile. It's a pity that father is injured. Otherwise, father would have accompanied you. I may not be back in a while. To ease her father, Gu Yundong could only bring Xue Rong along. Before leaving, he instructed Tong Shuetao to take care of her father. In a while, Dr. Yu would come over to change his bandage. If there was anything else he needed help with, he would call the waiter. Tong Shuetao was still a little resentful as she glared fiercely at Xue Rong. To think that she had called him Brother Xue yesterday. She did not expect him to fight for Miss Favor the moment he arrived. Miss did not even bring her along when she went out. Xue Rong was stunned for a moment, but he did not say anything and quickly followed. Gu Yundong specially went to buy some things before heading to the Yu residence. They drove the carriage there. The road was a little long, but the carriage stopped at the entrance of the alley. It was not easy to ride inside. It was still the same alley, and those sizing gazes. Gu Yundong did not care, but Xue Rong frowned slightly. He followed Gu Yundong cautiously, glancing left and right from time to time. When he saw a few young men with sloppy gazes that revealed greed, Xue Rong's heart could not help but thump. Fortunately, not long after, they entered the Yu family. There were people in the Yu family, so the courtyard door was open. Gu Yundong had just walked in, but before she could make a sound, an unfamiliar voice came from inside. Old Yu, why don't you go out and find work these 2 days? I'm afraid that there won't be anyone at home when Dajiang comes back. I'll rest for 2 days. Anyway, I won't be able to find any work, Uncle Yu said with a smile. Unexpectedly, the other party sneered. He probably won't come back, right? Chapter 466, Grandpa Zhang next door. Grandpa Yu was unhappy. What do you mean? Didn't you say that his daughter came looking for him? She's quite rich. The person who came the afternoon before yesterday was his daughter's maidservant, right? She even used a maidservant. Gu Dajiang must have followed his daughter to enjoy life. How could he still remember his poor friend here? Don't talk nonsense. How am I spouting nonsense? Otherwise, why didn't Gu Dajiang come to see you after a few days? He might be enjoying himself now and have long forgotten about your family. You're the only one who's still waiting at home. Grandpa Yes' voice was filled with anger. I know Dajiang better than you. He must have been delayed by something. Don't spout nonsense here. I'm busy. Go back to your house. Hey, why are you, Grandpa Yu, are you home? Gu Yundong suddenly shouted. Grandpa Yu was stunned. He quickly put down the basket he was weaving and came out happily. Yundong, you're here. He looked behind her. Although he saw a man, it wasn't Gu Dajiang. He was immediately puzzled. As Gu Yundong walked inside, he explained, my father didn't come. Actually, when I met him 2 days ago, he was seriously ill and has been recuperating in bed for the past 2 days. 2 days ago, Xue Tao came over. I specially asked her not to say anything, afraid that you would be worried. As she spoke, she had already seen the people in the room. It was a man who was slightly younger than Grandpa Yu. When he heard his words, he smiled awkwardly. Gu Yundong did not look at him. She just asked Xue Rong to put the things he had bought on the table. Grandpa Yu, this is food bought on the street. My father specially instructed me to buy it. He wanted to come too, but the doctor instructed him to rest more and come back after he recovers. When Grandpa Yu heard that Gu Dajiang was sick, he became anxious and didn't even look at the things on the table. On the other hand, the other person in the room kept looking sideways. He even swallowed his saliva and wanted to know what was inside. Why is your father sick? What illness is he suffering from? I'll go see him, Grandpa Yu asked nervously. He knew that Gu Dajiang must have been delayed. Gu Yundong smiled and helped him sit down. I'm fine. He's already seen a doctor. He just caught a cold. It's not good for him to go out again. You shouldn't go. If he passes it to you, my father will feel uneasy. Grandpa Yu thought about it and agreed. Your father is sick. Don't come over. It's more important to take care of your father. I must come and take a look. As Gu Yundong spoke, she glanced at the table where the gift box was placed. Seeing that the stranger was getting closer and closer, she could not help but twitch her lips. She asked, this is, Grandpa Yu seemed to have just remembered that there was another person at home. He immediately patted his head and said, it's Grandpa Zhang next door. Grandpa Zhang forced a bright smile at Gu Yundong. You must be Dajiang's daughter. You're really good-looking, polite, and filial. I'm your Grandpa Zhang from the family on the left. Your father and I have known each other for a long time. He's been suffering and has been looking for you. This time, he's sick. You have to take good care of him. It's not easy for him. It's really not easy. Unfortunately, I don't have much ability to help him. He even wiped his eyes as he spoke, looking very sad. Gu Yundong was speechless. Chapter 467, Box with a Secret Compartment. You've got quite a lot of drama. Grandpa Yu could not stand it anymore. He waved his hand and chased him away. All right. This has nothing to do with you. Hurry up and go home. Your grandson will come looking for you later. Grandpa Zhang let out a sigh and refused to leave. I'm talking to him. Why don't you know any etiquette? How can you chase a guest out? I haven't forgotten what you said just now. Why don't I have a good talk with the Gu family's girl? Grandpa Zhang immediately fell silent and snorted. Seriously, if you want to leave, so be it. You're too much. With that, she hurriedly left. Grandpa Yu closed the courtyard door and blocked the view outside. He then came back to greet Gu Yundong. Come, come. Yundong, take a seat first. He poured 2 glasses of water for her. Why did you bring anything? These things are expensive. Grandpa Yu, I hope you don't mind, Gu Yundong said politely. Then, he changed the topic and said in a low voice, actually, I came today to ask for your help with something. Tell me. As long as I can help, it'll definitely help. Grandpa Yu, do you know any carpenters? I want to ask someone to make me a small box with a secret compartment. Uncle Yu slapped his leg. I know him. There's a carpenter Tan in an alley over there. He's very skilled, but he doesn't have a good temper, so he doesn't take on many jobs. Grandpa Yu, can you bring me to meet him? Are you in a hurry? Gu Yundong nodded. Yes, it's best if you can give it to me today. Alright, I'll take you there. Grandpa Yu did not delay any longer. He brought Gu Yundong out of the courtyard and went straight to the Tan family. Carpenter Tan was said to have a bad temper, but in fact, he was not very social. He spoke little and almost only answered questions. But Gu Yundong had seen the things made in his courtyard. They were indeed sturdy and beautiful. Gu Yundong explained the appearance to him. It was actually not complicated and was not big. It was just a small rectangular box that contained hairpins. The most important thing was the secret compartment. This had to be made solid. Carpenter Tan's movements were very fast and skilled. With a few swooshes, he sawed the wood and cut the connector. The hardest part was the secret compartment, which took some time. However, it took less than an hour. Gu Yundong thought that it would take a day to do this, but she did not expect it to take so little time. Carpenter Tan polished the box twice in the end. It was very flat and smooth to the touch. He then waxed it again. By the time Gu Yundong got it, it was still too early. She became happy and gave Carpenter Tan a tael of silver. Carpenter Tan was stunned when he saw this. It did not take much effort for him to buy such a small wooden box. He did not need so much at all. But Gu Yundong had already left with the wooden box. When she left the Tan family, she said to the old man, Grandpa Yu, I still have something to do, so I'll leave first. I'll visit you again after my father recovers. Grandpa Yu could also tell that she seemed to be in a hurry. Alright, I'll send you off. No need. Xue Rong is here. Take your time and go home first. Remember to eat the pastries I brought for you. Don't let them go bad. The weather is hot now. As soon as he finished speaking, he left with large strides with Xue Rong before he could speak. With the box, she could deliver the letter. Unfortunately, there were always obstacles blocking her path to success. Gu Yundong sighed inwardly as she looked at the 4 people who had stopped him. Chapter 468, Eldest Miss is so powerful. Xue Rong's expression suddenly tensed up. He did not know martial arts, and his body was even a little thin. There were 4 of them. He could only hold back 2 at most. If he had known earlier, he would not have kept quiet but let Grandpa Yu send them off. The 4 of them had already surrounded them. Miss, don't be afraid. We just want money. Look at how hard our lives are. Give us some money and buy peace. Isn't it good for everyone to live in harmony? Xue Rong was already prepared for battle. He whispered to Gu Yundong without looking back, Miss, I'll hold them back later. Run quickly. This side is close to the Yu family. Run towards the Yu family. Gu Yundong held his forehead and laughed. She patted Xue Rong's shoulder and looked at the 4 of them. I have something urgent to attend to. It's better if you don't block my way. Otherwise, you'll suffer if I don't hold back. The four of them were stunned and could not help but laugh. Miss, you're scaring us. Gu Yundong sighed. Seeing that they were slowly crowding around him, he immediately handed the box in his hand to Xue Rong. Hold it. Stand there and don't move. Xue Rong, who was about to walk forward, suddenly stopped. The next moment, he widened his eyes and watched in shock as Gu Yundong flipped someone to the ground. Then, she picked up a stick from the ground and hit the other person's back. Then, she kicked another person's knee. That person's face instantly twisted as he knelt on the ground. In the end, she walked towards the last person. That person watched helplessly as his three accomplices fell to the ground in an instant. His expression changed. He looked in horror at Gu Yundong, whose hair was not even messy. Ah, he screamed and turned to run. Gu Yundong sneered and threw away the stick in his hand. She patted her dress and tidied her clothes. She walked back to Xue Rong's side, took the box, and strode out of the alley. Xue Rong was still standing on the spot, suspecting that there was something wrong with his eyes. How was this possible? Miss was alone, weak, wearing a dress that got in the way. She was clearly still young. But she had actually dealt with all four of them in the blink of an eye. Xue Rong. Gu Yundong called him from outside. Coming. Xue Rong glanced at the person on the ground again and hurriedly turned around to follow. Gu Yundong keenly sensed a slight change in his attitude, as if he had become more respectful. The two of them did not speak along the way. They were about to reach the entrance of the inn. Xue Rong finally couldn't help but ask, Young Miss Martial Arts Competition. Gu Yundong raised his eyebrows. You should know that I fled from the Yongning Prefecture to the Xuanhe Prefecture, right? Xue Rong had been following her. When she chatted with Grandpa Yu, she would mention the past from time to time. Xue Rong thought for a moment and came to a realization. That's right. Miss had come all the way to the Xuanhe Prefecture without Old Master by her side. What she had experienced was simply unimaginable. How could those four people stop Miss? But, he still felt that Miss was very powerful. It had to be known that on the way to escape, the fate of women was usually not very good, especially when there was no one to protect them. However, Miss had to protect her family all the way to the Xuanhe Prefecture safely. Clearly, she was stronger than he had imagined. All right, you go back to the inn first. I'll make a trip to the pharmacy. Gu Yundong got down from the carriage. Yes. Chapter 469. This is a life-saving thing. Gu Yundong went to the pharmacy next door and grabbed a few herbs. Then, she found an empty place and wrapped the letter for Qin Wenjing with oil paper in 2 layers before placing it in the secret compartment of the box that she had just made. She took a hairpin and placed it in the box before covering it. Then, she took the medicine bag and box to an escort company not far away. She went straight to the escort in charge. I want to send something to Fengkai County in Xuanhe Prefecture, but the thing I want to send is very urgently needed. It's best if it can be delivered within 4 days. The escort leader frowned. 4 days. It was a little rush to travel from Wanqing Prefecture to Xuanhe Prefecture. He did not agree and only asked, what's to be sent? Gu Yundong took out a medicine bag and a box. I have a friend who's terminally ill and needs medicine urgently. These are the medicines I found for her. They're for saving her life. And this box. She left the hairpin inside with me. It's something her mother left for her. Let's leave it for her as a memento. The escort leader understood. This was a life-saving thing, and it didn't leave any regrets. After a pause, he looked at Gu Yundong and said, well, take this escort, but you know that if we want to rush to the Xuanhe Prefecture in such a short time, not to mention traveling day and night, we'll definitely have to change horses in between. I'm afraid this price is not cheap. I know. Hey, race 100 taels of silver. Is it enough? The escort leader's expression relaxed a little. That's enough. In a few days, at most 2 people were required to deliver the thing. It was not a loss to earn 100 taels. Furthermore, the journey to the Xuanhe prefecture was very peaceful. It was not like they were escorting a large number of goods, so they would not encounter any danger. It wouldn't cost much to change horses. He just needed to make up the difference in price. Yundong discussed with the escort leader again and gave him the address. He also repeatedly reminded him that the escort this time was for saving lives. If the item could be delivered as soon as possible, it should be delivered as soon as possible. She knew that this escort agency was trustworthy. The escort leader valued loyalty. Moreover, the escort leader had said that he would do this job himself. Yundong was relieved and turned to leave. She had no choice. If she just let the escort agency deliver the letter, she would be finished if she accidentally lost it or if someone saw the contents. She bought medicine and made a secret compartment. Although it took some effort, it was at least safer. In the future, she had to think of a way to get some secret code or something. Her family would understand and find the information she wanted them to know. This way, she wouldn't have to worry about others seeing the letter. This time, the address Yundong gave the escort leader was Qin Wenzheng's school. She was afraid that someone would know about Qin Wenzheng, so the recipient was simply Gu. Qin Wenzheng was such a smart person. When he saw the medicine packet, he should be able to guess that she had sent it to him, right? After all, he knew that she had come to Wanqing Prefecture to look for medicine. She had given him medicine for no reason, and there was also an inexplicable hairpin and box. He would definitely notice that something was wrong. He was a young top scholar after all, so his brain worked quickly. Yundong expressed that she was very confident in Qin Wenzheng. Hopefully, he would not want to disappoint him. As for the 100 taels of silver, she would get it back from the Axian family. After she was done, she turned around and walked towards the inn. Before leaving, she even went to the ready-to-wear shop to buy a few sets of clothes for Dajiang and Xue Rong. When she went to Grandpa Ye's house, she didn't bring Dajiang's 2 sets of tattered clothes back. She couldn't wear those clothes at all. They were all patched up. Could it be that she was wearing the clothes cleanly and let her father wear dirty clothes? Carrying his clothes, Yundong's footsteps became much lighter. Unexpectedly, as soon as he entered the inn, he saw a familiar middle-aged man. Wasn't this the man who was talking to Axian Zhiyuan in the room that day? Chapter 470. So powerful. Yundong remembered that he said that he would personally make a trip to the Xuanhe prefecture in a few days to look for the farmer who made white sugar. If you want to go, you have to be able to do it. As the middle-aged man walked upstairs, Yundong had already found an angle and walked behind a potted plant in the corner. There was no one there. She was holding the toy gun. Just as the man Axian Zhiyuan called Uncle Wei was about to walk up the last step, she instantly hit his leg. Uncle Wei felt a sharp pain in his legs and fell to the side uncontrollably. The waiter was the first to notice that something was wrong. He hurriedly shouted, "Be careful." He wanted to rush forward to support her, but it was too late. Uncle Wei wanted to grab the railing with both hands, but he couldn't. He rolled down the stairs. A customer who was about to go upstairs subconsciously stood to the side. His hands were still tightly gripping the railing as he watched him roll down. Yundong almost laughed out loud. She hurriedly covered her mouth and walked out from behind the potted plant. Uncle Wei rolled to the bottom. His face was pale and he was sweating profusely. He held his leg and cried out in pain. So powerful. She was afraid that the fall wouldn't be serious enough, and she wanted to stab him again later. The waiter hurriedly ran up, and the others in the hall also rushed forward to help. Instantly, there was a commotion below. As Yundong walked over, she searched for the 2 bullets and quickly put away the destruction evidence. Then, without even looking at Uncle Wei, who was carried out of the door, she went upstairs. Tong Shui Tao came out and asked curiously, "Miss, you're back. What happened downstairs? It's so noisy." "Oh, someone accidentally rolled down the stairs. Be careful when you take the stairs next time." "Of course, my lady." Gu Yundong entered the room. Gu Dajiang was still awake and Xue Rong was serving him porridge. "I'll do it." Gu Yundong placed the clothes on the table, took the porridge bowl, and personally fed it to Gu Dajiang. "Father, how do you feel today?" "Much better. Doctor Yu said that you gave him a lot of money. He used the best medicine, and it doesn't hurt much when I turn my body now. Seriously, if you have some money, just save for yourself in the future. There's no need to use the best medicine. Won't I recover after a few more days?" Gu Yundong fed him a mouthful. "Father, don't you want to get better as soon as possible and go back to see mother and brother and sister?" Gu Dajiang immediately stopped talking. He just opened his mouth and obediently finished the porridge. Then, she leaned against the folded blanket and sighed softly. "I wonder how they are now. Yundong, tell me about the situation at home. I'm very concerned." "Okay." In the past 2 days, Gu Dajiang had either been sleeping and recuperating while Gu Yundong had been busy with other things. They really hadn't sat down properly to talk about family matters. Gu Yundong took a fan from the side and fanned him. The weather was already hot, and Gu Dajiang's wound was drenched in sweat. "Mother has always been thinking about father. She has dreamed of you several times. Moreover, mother's illness has a high chance of being cured. We found an imperial physician who gave mother an acupuncture session. Although she hasn't recovered now, it won't worsen in the future. He said that as long as he finds the last medicine, he can completely cure mother." Gu Dajiang's eyes lit up when he heard that. He was slightly excited. "Really? Of course it's true. Actually, I came to Wanqing Prefecture this time to look for that medicine." Chapter 471, Let's say something delightful. What medicine? "It's a medicine called by Musi. Don't worry, father. I already have clues." Xue Rong, who was standing behind Gu Yundong, was slightly stunned. However, he quickly regained his composure. Gu Yundong glanced at him from the corner of her eye before continuing to say to Gu Dajiang, "Father, don't worry about mother. This kind of thing can't be rushed. When we find Bai Musi, everything will naturally be fine." Gu Dajiang nodded. "Yes, there's no hurry. I've already waited for so long. I don't mind waiting a little longer. Besides, even if Lu Nyang couldn't recover in her lifetime, he would still take good care of her." Gu Yundong saw that he was a little sad and immediately changed the topic. "On the other hand, Yunshu is much more lively now. He's already in school." Gu Dajiang immediately said in surprise, "He went to study." "That's right. His master used to be the top scholar. The students he took in were all of good character. He was the youngest among his classmates. Everyone took good care of him. Now, he's so happy that he forgets about home." The smile on Gu Dajiang's face widened. The joy on his face was obvious. Good, good. Yunshu is starting to read and write. He even took the top scholar as his master. This is something that many people don't even dare to think about. He will definitely be promising in the future. Gu Dajiang had thought that no matter how much his family objected, he would definitely send Yunshu to school when Yunshu was grown. He had already been destroyed by the Gu family. He would never allow Yunshu, who was also talented, to be mediocre for the rest of his life. Only by studying for the imperial examination and leaving the Gu village would his future be bright. However, he did not expect that after Lu Nyang injured her head, he could not split up. Then, they encountered a famine. The family fled their hometown. Fortunately, Yunshu still went to school when he was in his initiation year. This was all thanks to Yundong. His daughter was more capable than him. What about Yunka? Gu Dajiang was most worried about her. She was too young. When she was still in the Gu family, she couldn't even walk steadily because she didn't eat well or receive good care. She had been unconscious most of the time during their escape. He often had the illusion that she was not even breathing. He was terrified. Kiki. Gu Yundong laughed. She's a little foodie now. She can eat anything. Yunshu calls her a fat chick. It makes her so angry that she keeps saying that she doesn't want her brother anymore. But once Yunshu goes to school, she gets anxious when she doesn't see her brother for a day. Every day when she goes home, she's the first to run out to welcome him. Gu Dajiang laughed when he heard that. Yundong's words were like a painting. In the painting, there was Lu Nyang and his 3 children. The family was happy, warm, and blissful. He could not wait to recover from his injuries and go back. Gu Yundong said a lot of interesting things. But for some reason, she didn't dare to mention Xiao Qingyuan. She felt that mentioning him in front of an old father who had just found his daughter would agitate him. Yes, her father was still recuperating. It was better to say something that made him happy. Gu Yundong did not say anything about Yuanji. At the mention of him, she would definitely talk about Eldest Aunt Gu, who had yet to be found, and Bien Mulan, who had passed away. Gu Dajiang doted on Bien Mulan very much. If he knew that she was gone, he would probably feel terrible. Gu Yundong only mentioned interesting things until Gu Dajiang looked a little tired. Then, she let him rest and went out. Xue Rong followed him out. He pursed his lips as he looked at Gu Yundong, as if he had something to say. Chapter 472, Xue Rong's Distrust. Gu Yundong walked towards her room. Seeing that he was still standing there, she raised her eyebrows and said, "Come in. Don't you have something to tell me?" Xue Rong lowered his head and followed her into the room. He carefully closed the door. He even went over to pour a cup of tea for Gu Yundong. This person had really been professionally trained. "Miss, you said that you have a clue about Bai Muzi. Were you referring to the Xue family?" Gu Yundong thought that he indeed knew. "I were. Why? Are you trying to persuade me to give up? Do you think it's impossible to get Bai Muzi from the Xue family?" Xue Rong thought for a moment. It's indeed impossible to obtain Bai Muzi from the Xue family, because it is no longer in the Xue family. Gu Yundong suddenly stood up from his chair. "What did you say?" Xue Rong said, there was indeed a Bai Muzi in the Xue family. However, 3 months ago, the eldest young master of the Xue family suddenly fell ill, and Bai Muzi was used by him. What he didn't say was that it was also because of that illness that 2 servants were killed in the courtyard of the eldest young master of the Xue family. The rest were sold, and he was one of them. Gu Yundong frowned fiercely. 2 to 3 months ago, didn't that mean that it was gone before Dr. Song wrote to her? Communications in this era were so inconvenient that the information lagged for so long. "You promise, no more." Xue Rong knelt down. "I can swear that I didn't lie to you just now." "All right, get up. I don't mean to question you." Gu Yundong rubbed her temples and sighed inwardly. However, Xue Rong still knelt on the ground and had no intention of getting up. Gu Yundong frowned. "Why? Is there anything else?" "Miss, I know that old master's injury was caused by the second young master of the Xue family." Xue Rong lowered his head. "Miss, do you want to avenge old master? You don't think I can do it?" Xue Rong pursed his lips. Hearing Gu Yundong's words, his body trembled and he hesitated for a moment. He shut his mouth and did not say anything else. Gu Yundong was so angry that she almost laughed. Xue Rong, I know that you used to serve the eldest young master of the Axian family. The Axian family is rich and has many rules. There are also many demons and monsters inside, and there are endless open and hidden conflicts. I understand that you've developed a cautious personality, but am not the Axian family. There's no need to hide anything, and you don't have to be afraid that I'll be unhappy if I hear it. I hope you can be straightforward. I won't blame you. Xue Rong was stunned for a moment before he smiled bitterly in his heart. After a long time, he nodded slightly. I don't think you can't do it, Mississippi. It's just that the Axian residence is far larger than what the outside world sees. The inside is complicated. Not only does it have the prefecture magistrate as its backer, but it also has someone in the capital and even. In short, it won't be easy for Miss to deal with second young master. Gu Yundong sneered. After saying so much, didn't he still think that she couldn't do it? Indeed, if she was alone, she would consider it carefully. After all, dealing with the Axian family was not the same as dealing with the Gu family. But didn't the Axian family want to die? She could give them a push. All right, I know what you're saying. I know what to do. Go back and take care of my father first. Xue Rong felt that Miss would not let the matter rest, but he could not say anything. In the following days, Gu Yundong focused on taking care of Gu Dajiang. It was as if he had nothing else to do other than let him recuperate. Xue Rong had a very strange feeling. Miss seemed to have given up, but she also seemed to be planning something, but she did not do anything. 6 days later, when Gu Dajiang could walk on the ground, someone came to the inn. Chapter 473:1 Am Mo Xulin. When Gu Yundong went downstairs, he brushed past someone. When that person passed by her, he said in a low voice, Miss Gu, let's talk in private. Gu Yundong was stunned for a moment. She turned her head and glanced at him. This person looked very ordinary and was dressed in the same style as the guests in the inn. No one would notice him in the crowd. But Gu Yundong could still feel that he was constantly tense. He was a martial artist. She calculated the time and roughly guessed who this person was. Seeing that she didn't say anything or respond, the other party thought that he had been too abrupt and quickly added, Mr. Qin asked me to come. Gu Yundong nodded and the man went downstairs first. Seeing him leave the inn, Gu Yundong slowly walked out of the door as if she was taking a leisurely stroll. That person walked at a moderate pace in front, and Gu Yundong followed him slowly. Until he turned at an intersection and entered a small courtyard. When Gu Yundong entered the courtyard, he realized that there were about a dozen people inside. All of them looked travel-worn. They looked like they had just arrived at Wanqing Prefecture. Upon seeing her enter, one of them, who seemed to be their leader, immediately stood up. Miss Gu, Am Mo Xulin. I'm here on Lord Qin's orders to investigate the Axian family. By the way, this is from Lord Qin. He took out a letter and handed it to Gu Yundong. She opened the envelope. There were 2 full pieces of paper. Gu Yundong read it quickly, but after reading it, she immediately cursed in her heart. The content of Qin Wenzheng's letter was very simple. He said that the news sent by Gu Yundong was very timely because the emperor was intending to deal with the magistrate of Wanqing Prefecture and the Axian family. Previously, when the new emperor ascended the throne, he planted 2 trusted aides in Yongning Prefecture after the famine and Qingan Prefecture after the chaos. Prefecture Magistrate Dai of Xuanhe Prefecture also became the new emperor's subordinate. The commotion was too great. If he wanted to touch the prefecture magistrate of Wanqing Prefecture who had a deep foundation, he would be a little too hasty. Especially since the Wanqing Prefecture had the Axian family. The officials and merchants colluded to control the entire Wanqing Prefecture. The emperor knew that the prefecture magistrate wasn't a good person, and he also knew that the Axian family wasn't clean. It was obvious just from how luxurious their residence was. Now that more than half a year had passed, the emperor was indeed prepared to take down Wanqing Prefecture. It could be seen from the fact that he had started to support the Duan family. However, the emperor had been collecting information on the Xue family and the magistrate. This information could not be too small. Otherwise, who knew when they would make a comeback? Just as they were looking for a breakthrough, Yundong unexpectedly gave them a pleasant surprise. The Xue family was simply too daring. They actually dared to have dealings with the other two countries. This kind of dealings was not ordinary business dealings. Clearly, it was related to the imperial court. Actually, Qin Wenjing also knew that with the ability of the Xue family, even if they had dealings, it was only some money transactions. The Xue family was not qualified to come into contact with the center of political power. Even if they wanted to betray their country, they would not be able to do it. However, this was enough. Especially when it was related to the prefecture magistrate here, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to kill the entire family. Therefore, Qin Wenjing sent people over to prepare for a drastic reorganization. The question was, why did he want her to find a way to get incriminating evidence? Yundong wanted to slam the table. Wasn't her mission over after informing them? It was enough for her to just wait and watch the show. Why was Qin Wenjing still adding trouble for her? Yundong slammed the letter on the table and pointed at Am Mo Xulin. Chapter 474, Seduction. You all seem to be highly skilled in martial arts. If you want to find evidence, you can just sneak in, right? Yundong was so angry that she laughed. I'm a weak woman, and you actually handed the most important thing to me. Do you think I'm too good-looking and want others to chop me into pieces? Am Mo Xulin was speechless. Miss, don't feel so good about yourself, all right? He coughed lightly and said, the Xue residence is heavily guarded. It's naturally not a problem for us to sneak in, but it's easy to alert the enemy. Heavily guarded. Didn't her father, Dajiang, sneak in? No, Dajiang could only ask around outside. He couldn't go to the master's courtyard, let alone the places where evidence was placed. Am Mo Xulin continued, actually, it's not like no one has infiltrated the Xue family before. They even entered Master Xin's study, but there's nothing in the study. If we want to find evidence of guilt, I'm afraid a few days won't be enough. If you can't find it in the study, do you think I can? Once we alert the enemy, the Xue family will be easy. We can just capture them anyway, but the forces in the capital that colluded with the Xue family will be on guard. Yundong was enlightened. Are you making such a big move this time? It won't be easy to clean up the mess. So, what the emperor really wanted to deal with were those people in the capital? All the more reason for her not to get involved. Am Mo Xulin lowered his eyes. He could not say anything in front of Yundong. However, seeing that she was unwilling, he immediately thought of what Qin Wenjing had said. He could only take a step back and say, Miss Gu, if you're really unwilling, then, can you figure out the approximate location of the important letters in the Xue residence? Seeing that Yundong wanted to refute, he immediately added, Lord Qin said that since Miss Gu has the ability to obtain the news that Xue and Zhiyuan colluded with another country, you can definitely do these things. He really thinks highly of me. Lord Qin also said that if Miss makes a great contribution and the Xue family is raided later, Miss can choose a few valuable items first. Yundong stood up. All right, I'll go back and think about it. She kept the letter and turned to leave the small courtyard. When the others saw this, they looked at each other and asked Am Mo Xulin, did she agree or not? Am Mo Xulin was unfathomable. What do you think? However, he quickly restrained his expression. Inform the Duan family and ask them to cooperate with us if necessary. Should we inform Commander Lu of Wanqing Prefecture? One had to bring troops over to arrest a family. It said that Commander Lu doesn't have a good relationship with the prefecture magistrate. Perhaps he can help. However, Am Mo Xulin shook his head. It's hard to say if they're not on good terms. Maybe they're just putting on a show for us. Third brother has already gone elsewhere to mobilize troops. Let's wait a few more days. Yes. The others in the courtyard quickly went to work. Yundong felt a headache when she returned to the inn. Qin Wenjing was indeed unreliable. However, although she was cursing Qin Wenjing in her heart, her mind still started to spin. In the following days, Yundong was very busy. Tong Shuitao did not know what she was doing. In any case, she would do whatever young miss instructed her to do. Dajiang was a little worried. He had once asked Yundong, but she said that it was for business. Only Xue Rong started to feel uneasy. A few days later, when he saw Yundong writing the names of everyone in the Xue family on paper in the room, his thoughts were finally confirmed. He had a feeling that it was just as he expected. Chapter 475, finally talking. Yundong glanced at him. What's the matter? Miss, you must deal with the Xue family. Xue Rong finally exhaled and asked in a low voice, how confident are you? 90%. Yundong smiled. Xue Rong looked at her in surprise and disbelief. Miss, why? Don't you believe me? You've been here for so many days, so you should know how I conduct myself. When have you seen me boast? Xue Rong paused. He had indeed been silently paying attention to Miss' words and actions these past few days. He more or less knew her personality. However, he already knew that the young lady's identity was only that of a peasant girl. She had no power or influence against the Xue family and could not gain any advantage. 90% confident. Xue Rong suddenly thought of how busy Yundong had been these past few days and how mysterious he looked. Could it be that Miss had a helper? And this helper was not an ordinary person? If that was the case. Xue Rong was slightly excited. His fingers tugged and tugged. After a long time, he seemed to have made up his mind. If Miss wants to deal with the Xue family, I can help. Yundong raised her eyebrows and put down her brush. She placed the piece of paper with the names of the various masters of the Xue family aside and smiled. You're finally going to talk. Xue Rong was stunned. Finally. Yundong faced him. I'm listening. Go ahead. She knew that Xue Rong definitely knew something, and it was something that others did not know. Previously, he had said that the Xue family was rich and powerful. Not only did they have people in the capital, but they even what? He did not finish his sentence, but Yundong could guess that Xue Rong probably knew that the Xue family had connections beyond his country. Moreover, Xue Rong had a grudge against the Xue family. As expected, Xue Rong's expression was not good when he talked about his days in the Xue family. Miss, you know that I used to serve Eldest young master in his courtyard. 3 months ago, all the servants in Eldest young master's courtyard, except his nanny, were sold. 2 of them were beaten to death. The reason was that they didn't serve Eldest young master well and almost caused Eldest young master's illness to act up and kill him. Yundong nodded. He even ate by Musi because of this. Xue Rong became slightly excited. One of the 2 servants who were beaten to death is my younger sister. Yundong raised his head and looked at him in surprise. However, no one in the residence knows that. My sister and I have acknowledged each other in private. It's not easy to serve the eldest young master in his courtyard. The eldest young master is sick all year round and has a bad temper. My sister suffered a lot because of this. Although we worked in the eldest young master's courtyard, we couldn't enter the inner room to serve him usually. The eldest young master has a special guard to help him search. He took a deep breath and said, search for children. Only the nanny could enter the inner room. That day, the nanny was not around because she had something on. The eldest young master suddenly shouted in the inner room. It was Xue Rong's sister and another maidservant who ran in. In the end, they saw a girl lying on the ground with a pair of scissors in her hand. The scissors were stained with blood, and so was the eldest young master's neck. The girl must have stabbed the young master, but the girl was also killed by the young master on the spot. Xue Rong's sister was scared to death at that time. She and the other maidservant were at a loss. Only when the eldest young master looked over fiercely did the two of them hurriedly stop the bleeding. The eldest young master might have lost too much blood and fainted on the spot. The other maidservant was afraid. After she and Xue Rong's sister carried him to the bed, she said that she wanted to call a doctor and ran away on the spot. Chapter 476. A rumor: Xue Rong's sister could only take care of the eldest young master by herself. When she was bandaging eldest young master, her fingers trembled in fear and she accidentally spilled the medicinal powder on the bed. She quickly found a rag to wipe it off. Her movements were too erratic, and she accidentally pushed aside the pillow on the eldest young master's bed and saw 2 letters inside. She knew that she shouldn't be curious, but at the same time, she also knew that she had seen what had happened today. She was afraid that eldest young master wouldn't let her off easily. Since she was going to die anyway, what did it matter if she took a look? At that time, the sister calmed down and carefully took out the letter. There were 2 letters. One was a letter where the Xue family had contacted the Lu country. The other was a report from a subordinate of the eldest young master regarding the situation in the capital. Sister Xue felt that her heart was about to jump out, and cold sweat kept pouring out. At this moment, urgent footsteps came from outside the door. Sister Xue hurriedly stuffed the letters back in. She slid under the bed and hid inside. It was the eldest young master's nanny who came in. She called him anxiously a few times and heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that he had woken up. "The doctor will be here soon. How do you feel?" "Nanny, under the pillow. There are 2 letters. Take them back and hide them." Xue Ziming's breathing was weak, and his words were intermittent. The nanny put away the 2 letters but did not leave immediately. When the doctor came and young master's injury stabilized a little, she left while no one was paying attention. However, Sister Xue had been hiding under the bed. She wanted to wait until everyone left before coming out. However, there was always someone guarding the room. The eldest young master's condition suddenly worsened in the middle of the night. His eyes and mouth were crooked, as if he was about to have a stroke. The doctor said that the young master's health was not good to begin with, and he had lost too much blood this time. His life was in danger, and the Bimusi was used up at that time. Fortunately, on the 2nd day, his condition improved, and there was finally a time when there was no one in the room. Sister Xue took advantage of this time to crawl out from under the bed. When she came out, she realized that the entire courtyard was guarded. She could not even leave the eldest young master's house. She even vaguely heard that the maidservant who had seen the eldest young master's condition with her previously tried to escape from the Xue residence, but was captured and brought back. Now, the guards in the residence were looking for Sister Xue everywhere. Sister Xue knew that she would not be able to escape death. She was in despair, but she was unwilling to accept her fate, so she returned to the house. She took the brush on the eldest young master's table and hid under the bed and table to write down everything she saw and heard. This letter was for Xue Rong. At the end of the letter, she even instructed Xue Rong to think of a way to leave the Xue family. Something would happen sooner or later if the Xue family colluded with foreign countries. After writing, she stuffed the letter into her shoes and socks. When she was found by the guards in the residence, she was beaten to death on the spot. When Xue Rong heard the news, he only saw his sister's corpse. Xue Rong found the letter when he was collecting her corpse. He hated the Xue family, but he was too weak to take revenge. Then, the others in the courtyard were also sold. Gu Yundong listened to the entire process and sighed inwardly. Seeing the forbearance and hatred on Xue Rong's usually expressionless face, she could only say in a low voice, "Don't worry, I'll avenge your sister this time." "Thank you, Mississippi." So to speak, everything was taken by young Master Zin's nanny. The answer was really unexpected. "This nanny is quite trusted." Xue Rong thought for a moment and said, "Actually, there has always been a rumor in the Axan family." Chapter 477, The Axan family has been raided. Gu Yundong's interest was piqued. "What rumor?" "Eldest young master's nanny is actually old Master Zin's woman. Her status is even higher than ordinary concubines. I heard that when old master was young, he went out to discuss business and brought this nanny along." Xue Rong said, "Although the nanny serves eldest young master, she often enters and exits old master's study with the excuse of reporting eldest young master's situation." Gu Yundong could not help but pause. This gossip was a little big. "Is the nanny beautiful?" Xue Rong was speechless. Wasn't Miss Focus a little off? However, he still shook his head honestly. "She can't compare to master's concubines." Gu Yundong pushed a cup of tea over. "All right, I know what you're talking about. Go back and take care of my father. I'm going out for a while." "Yes, my lady." Gu Yundong left the inn and returned not long after. His expression was obviously relaxed. In the following days, she didn't leave the inn much. She spent most of her time by Gu Dajiang's side. Seeing that his health was improving, the smile on Gu Yundong's face became lighter. When he recovered, they could go back. Half a month later, Gu Dajiang could already go downstairs for a walk. Although it was still unnatural, it was a luxury for Gu Dajiang, who had been cooped up in his room for nearly a month. Gu Yundong helped him down. Standing at the entrance of the inn, Gu Dajiang heaved a sigh of relief. "In 2 days, let's go to the Yu family to see Uncle Yu and the others." Ever since that day, Gu Yundong did not go to the Yu family again. Instead, she let Xue Rong make 2 trips and mentioned Gu Dajiang's injury. Grandpa Yu wanted to come over and take a look, but he was stopped by Xue Rong. It had not been peaceful recently. Gu Yundong had instructed him not to go out as long as possible, especially since this inn was very close to the Axan residence. "Why do I feel that something is amiss?" Gu Dajiang suddenly said. "There are many people on the streets." Before Gu Yundong could say anything, the waiter beside him came over and nodded. "That's right. For some reason, there have been a lot of people these past few days. Our inn's business is doing well. I thought there was something happy to celebrate in the city, but I didn't hear anything after asking around." Gu Yundong laughed. "Something happy? A storm is coming." With that, she helped Gu Dajiang in and found a seat in the hall to eat. The waiter touched his head and looked at the bright sun outside. "Where is the storm coming from? Why don't I understand?" Xue Rong thought, "If you understand, you can be the shopkeeper." On the other hand, when Gu Dajiang heard Gu Yundong's words, he asked curiously in a low voice, "Yundong, do you know something? What's going to happen at Wanqing Prefecture?" "Father will know the result in 2 days." However, there was no need to wait for 2 more days. The next morning, the waiter ran into the hall in a panic. Gu Yundong was coming downstairs and saw that his clothes were wet and his hat was gone. Strands of hair were stuck to his face. He was panting and his face was filled with fear. Moreover, at this moment, there was a loud rumble outside. A bolt of lightning struck down, accompanied by the patter of rain. As expected, the atmosphere was already appropriate. The waiter wiped his face and said in a trembling voice, "Shopkeeper, the prefecture magistrate has been arrested. The Axan residence has also been raided." Chapter 478, Everyone's shocked. The waiter's words suddenly sounded in the hall. The shopkeeper was so shocked that he forgot about the abacus. Even the guests who were originally sitting there chatting and resting turned to look at him in shock. The shopkeeper walked out from behind the counter without a word and asked anxiously, "What did you say just now? What happened? What do you mean by the prefecture magistrate has been arrested and the Xian residence has been raided?" Yes. What happened? The Xian family. Our Wanqing prefecture's 100-year-old clan was actually raided. A customer stood up and walked over in disbelief. The waiter was still in shock and his words were a little ethereal. One don't know either. Just now, when I went home to get my things, I walked to the street at the entrance of the Xian residence and saw many soldiers guarding it. The plaque of the Xian residence was also smashed down by those soldiers. All the servants in the residence were taken away. Then, a long row of people were escorted away. All of them lowered their heads and cried. What about the old and young masters of the Xian family? The waiter shook his head vigorously. No, I don't know. I heard that they're still in the residence and haven't come out. Someone even said that they might have been killed by those soldiers on the spot. Not long after, I heard someone run over and say that the prefecture magistrate's office was also surrounded by soldiers. The prefecture magistrate's family has been arrested. I don't know what's going on. Everyone was shocked when they heard that. The shopkeeper slapped his thigh. No wonder there have been many people in the prefecture city recently. I knew something big would happen. As expected. But this matter is too big. I don't even dare to think about it. The waiter finally came back to his senses and nodded repeatedly when he heard the shopkeeper's words. I also heard that these soldiers were transferred over from elsewhere. All of them are unfamiliar fierce faces. They're too terrifying. I originally wanted to go to the entrance of the Xian residence to ask around, but I didn't dare to and ran back. So, did anyone say what they did? The waiter shook his head sadly. I don't know. Yundong was still standing on the stairs and listening. Xue Rong was standing behind her at some point. He looked a little agitated and his eyes were slightly red. Miss, Yundong turned to look at him. Xue Rong tried his best to smile. Miss, you actually did it. The Xian family was such a colossus. Their power was magnificent and they had the backing of the prefecture magistrate and the high officials in the capital. But now, in just half a month, not only had their home been raided, but even the forces behind them had been uprooted. Xue Rong thought that if it wasn't for the fact that he was afraid of attracting too much attention outside, he would have knelt down on the spot and kowtowed to the Mississippi. Yundong smiled. Let's go and take a look. Yes. Xue Rong shook his hand and a smile finally appeared on his face. He followed Yundong downstairs. Tong Shuetao, who was standing upstairs, glared at his back fiercely. This Xue Rong must have ulterior motives. He must be a toad lusting after swan meat. He was clearly bought to serve the old master, but he kept approaching Mississippi. He was simply shameless. Miss had been deceived by him. She was so angry. Tong Shuetao kept staring at his figure as he disappeared from the door. Only then did she stomp her feet angrily and turn around to return to her room. The rain outside had stopped, and even the air felt wet. Yundong and Xue Rong walked all the way to the Xian family. Many people were talking about this along the way. Especially not far from the Xian family, everyone was pointing at the place. However, there were soldiers guarding the door, so no one dared to go forward. When they saw Yundong and her servant walking forward, they looked at her as if she was courting death. Chapter 479, Old Fourth playing dead. Yundong ignored these strange gazes. When they were almost at the entrance of the Xian residence, the soldiers guarding the door shifted their gaze to her. At the same time, a girl standing at the side looked at her. The girl was about the same age as her. She was dressed in silk and satin. Her skin was fair and tender, and she was beautiful. She had a refined temperament and had 2 maidservants by her side. However, she only glanced at Gu Yundong indifferently before turning around and continuing to speak to the soldiers at the door. "I'm really the Duan family's young lady. My brother is inside. If you don't believe me, you can call my eldest brother out." Before she could finish, she heard the officer's impatient voice. "No means no. Wait outside." His tone was cold and he did not seem to care about her at all. Gu Yundong felt that this soldier would probably be doomed alone for the rest of his life. Miss Duan stomped her feet angrily and walked to the side. The maidservant beside her hurriedly comforted her. Only then did Gu Yundong step forward. However, it was Xue Rong who spoke to the officer. "Sir, we're looking for Lord Am Mo Xulin." Miss Duan glanced at them and snorted softly. No one heard her. The soldier glanced at Gu Yundong and said the same thing as before, "Wait outside." Pfft! Miss Duan finally couldn't help but laugh. Gu Yundong looked over and saw that she had resumed her dignified and elegant self. Gu Yundong turned her head and happened to see a familiar figure walking past the door. The figure glanced at the door and met her gaze. However, in the next moment, he immediately turned his head and quickly walked to the other side. Gu Yundong was so angry that she laughed. "Stop right there, Am Mo Xulin's 4th brother." As she spoke, she squatted down and picked up a stone. She aimed it at the back of his head and threw it. She moved so quickly that no one could react. When they came back to their senses, the soldiers at the door instantly glared at her. "What are you doing? You're courting death." As they spoke, they suddenly pulled out their weapons and stabbed at her. The Duan family's young lady was shocked and quickly retreated. Xue Rong subconsciously stood in front of Gu Yundong. The man whose head had been smashed finally stopped pretending to be dead. He hurriedly ran over and waved his hand. "Hey, stop, stop. This is Miss Gu. She's one of us. She's one of us." The soldiers were stunned, but they still put away their weapons. The man then walked to Gu Yundong's side and smiled. "Miss Gu, why are you here? You didn't make a sound just now. I didn't even recognize you. They almost hurt you." Gu Yundong had never seen such a shameless person. Her voice pierced the sky. He must be deaf to not hear her. "Can I go in?" "Of course," the man said with a smile. He made the soldiers retreat and quickly led Gu Yundong inside. Seeing this, the Duan family's young lady was stunned. She quickly took 2 steps forward. "Sir, please wait." The man frowned and stopped to look at her unhappily. "What is it?" "Lord Am from the Duan family. My eldest brother is Duan Qian. He's inside. Can I go in and talk to him?" "No." With that, the man turned to smile at Gu Yundong and led her inside. "The stairs here are steep. Miss, be careful." Miss Duan was speechless. She was so angry. Chapter 480, a small box. This was the second time Gu Yundong had come to the Axian residence. The last time, she had entered through the back door. This time, he had walked through the main door. The scenery in front of him was completely different. The Axian family was indeed extremely extravagant. No wonder the emperor wanted to destroy it. As she admired the surrounding scenery, she spoke to Xue Rong. "Some people have black hearts. When they want me to help them, their attitude is so kind. They say that after everything is over, they will let me choose whatever I want. In the end, after using me, they turn around and pretend not to know me. They even say that I didn't make a sound and they didn't recognize me. It seems that the people I work with are blind and deaf." Xue Rong silently glanced at 4th brother, who was walking in front. The man's back was tense. However, he was secretly complaining in his heart. Why was Miss Gu's gaze so sharp? Previously, she had only seen him once in the small courtyard. She had not even spoken to him. Not only did she recognize him at a glance, but she also knew his ranking. She was simply unbelievable. Gu Yundong continued, I've been thinking about it. I'm not familiar with certain people, and I don't know their character. Will they renege on their debt? That's why I came over early when I heard about what happened here. As expected, they actually pretended not to know me. Ha, that's amazing. Xue Rong, don't do this. You'll be beaten up easily if you do. Fourth brother finally could not stand it anymore. He quickly turned his head and smiled. Miss Gu, I was wrong. I promise there won't be a next time. Why don't you hit me twice to vent your anger? No need. Just tell me where the storeroom is. I'll leave after taking what belongs to me. Gu Yundong snorted. Fourth brother's expression froze, and his footsteps finally quickened. When he arrived at the door of the warehouse, he saw Am Mo Xulin standing outside and talking to a young man. Am Mo Xulin was stunned for a moment when he saw Gu Yundong. The fourth brother quickly whispered into his ear. Am Mo Xulin's forehead darkened and he almost hit him. How could you? They did not intend to go back on their word. They just wanted to organize the stuff first and take what should be taken away. They would let Gu Yundong choose the rest. However, fourth brother had been seen by others and deliberately turned a blind eye to her. Now, even if he didn't have the intention, others would think that he had gone back on his word. He glared at his fourth son, took a few steps forward and said to Gu Yundong, Miss Gu is here. Yes, Gu Yundong replied coldly. Am Mo Xulin said, the storeroom is being tidied up. Miss Gu, please go in, but, he paused and lowered his voice. After this confiscation, all the properties belong to the imperial court. There are some things that the emperor has required, so, Gu Yundong snorted. She knew that there was a prerequisite for her privilege to choose. All right, I know. I know what I'm doing. Am Mo Xulin heaved a sigh of relief and called out to fourth brother, prepare a box for Mississippi. Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. After a while, she saw fourth brother carrying a box over. It was a small box that was 4.0 centimeters long, 20 centimeters wide, and 30 centimeters tall. So, she could only take an entire small box of things, right? TSK, they had really underestimated her. If you have the ability, come and carry an even smaller box. Gu Yundong took the small box and led Xue Rong into the storeroom with her head held high. The young man who was talking to Am Mo Xulin looked on in surprise. Where did this lady come from? Lord Am Mo was actually so polite to her. He even heard a hint of flattery. He wanted to ask, Lord Am Mo, may I know which family's daughter she is? Am Mo Xulin said, her surname is Gu. He was unwilling to say anything else. On the other hand, when fourth brother saw him, he thought of Miss Duan at the door and immediately mentioned it. Duan Qian had a headache. He apologized to Am Mo Xulin and hurried to the door. Chapter 481, looking at Gu Yundong in a new light. When Gu Yundong entered the storeroom, he realized that many people were registering the things in the storeroom. They were stunned when they saw her enter. It was Am Mo Xulin who came in later and asked everyone to leave first. Only then did everyone leave the storeroom with a puzzled expression. Am Mo Xulin said, Miss Gu, take a look. What do you like? As he spoke, he pointed at 2 large boxes not far away. You can't touch the things inside. Gu Yundong expressed that she understood. That was what the emperor wanted. She understood. She walked forward. There was a lot of gold, silver, jewelry, antiques, calligraphy, and expensive jade artifacts in the warehouse of the Xian family. These things were all placed in large boxes that were piled up in the huge warehouse. Gu Yundong's eyes lit up when she walked closer. Her eyes were sparkling, and she wished she could throw herself at the glittering money. The Axian family was simply too rich. They were simply so rich that it made people want to scream. Am Mo Xulin was so stingy that he only gave her a small box even though there were so many things. Her contributions were only worth the price of a small box. Yundong turned around and glared at him. Am Mo Xulin touched his nose and said uncomfortably, "Miss Gu, you know that the imperial court is in urgent need of money. Although this box is small, some things are worth a lot of money." As he spoke, he picked up a piece of calligraphy. This is a masterpiece from the previous dynasty. It's worth 10,000 taels. Then, he picked up another book. This is the only book. Many scholars would die for it. Yundong thought that Am Mo Xulin was indeed the leader of this group of people. His positioning was very precise. He knew that she knew how to draw, so he recommended calligraphy and painting. He knew that her brother was studying, so he recommended the only book. She snorted twice, took the two items, and placed them in the small box in Xue Rong's hand. Although the calligraphy was too long to be kept inside, it didn't matter. It was the same outside. Seeing this, Am Mo Xulin secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He did not leave. He watched as Yundong walked over one box after another. She looked very carefully. Sometimes half of her body was in the box. Am Mo Xulin stood at the back and could not see clearly. He did not know that when Yundong was searching, she took the opportunity to put the silver ingots into her interspace. After finding two boxes, Yundong placed a few jade pendants and accessories into a small box. Am Mo Xulin glanced at it and the corner of his mouth twitched. Miss Gu really did not know what was valuable. Why did she choose jade pendants and jewelry? Then, Yundong chose agate jade and pearl jade. She also saw two medical books that seemed to be very rare. Yes, she would bring them back to Shao Qingyuan. The brush and inkstone looked very valuable. She would bring them back for Yunshu, Yuanji, and her father. There was also a chessboard made of jade. It was simply extravagant. There was a huge pile of things. Yundong felt that anything that was rare enough could be stuffed into the small box. If it could not be stuffed, she would put it into her spatial storage when Am Mo Xulin was not paying attention. After going through all the boxes, Yundong finally rubbed her back and stood up. She looked at the small box with satisfaction. Yes, it's full. Xue Rong looked at the things inside and did not know what to say. When Am Mo Xulin realized that she did not find a single tael of silver, he could not help but look at her in a new light. Chapter 482, Come and See Your End. Am Mo Xulin felt that perhaps because she used to be a farm girl, her knowledge was limited and she was not good enough at appreciating good things, so she could not tell if the items she picked were good or bad. However, she did not care about money at all. She was more interested in elegant things like books, calligraphy, and paintings. It seemed that she had a long-term vision. In the future, as long as she came into contact with more of these things, she would definitely be able to identify the good and bad things next time. Miss, are you done? Yundong nodded. She remembered that there was about half a box of gold, silver, and jewelry in her spatial storage. She said in satisfaction, I'm done. Am Mo Xulin heaved a sigh of relief. Shall I walk the lady out? But Yundong said, Wait, I want to meet the eldest and second young masters of the Axian family. Am Mo Xulin frowned. Well, is it inconvenient? Am Mo Xulin looked at her pitifully small box. After all, he had taken advantage of her. Forget it, just let them meet. I'll bring you there. As he spoke, he led the way. After leaving the door, he let the people registering the stuff in the warehouse enter again. What Am Mo Xulin didn't know was that 2 days later, after all the warehouses in the Axian family were cleaned up, everyone would stare at the account book that didn't match at all with their mouths agape. They couldn't regain their senses for a long time. The masters of the Xue family were all locked up in the back room. Many people were locked up in the row of rooms. The people in different branches were locked up separately. The room in the middle should be the old master and madam of the Xue family. Yundong did not look at it. She followed Am Mo Xulin to the room on the left. Jiming is inside. Yundong asked Xue Rong to place the small box in Am Mo Xulin's hand. He blocked him outside and she went in by herself. Am Mo Xulin was speechless. This was against the rules. Jiming was the eldest young master of the Xue family, so he naturally had a wife. According to Xue Rong, that wife passed away less than 2 years after marrying him. However, Jiming did not remarry. The outside world had always thought that he had a deep love for his wife and could not forget her. In addition, his health was not good and he did not want to drag others down. But who would have thought that he would do such dirty things in private? When Yundong and Jiming entered, there was also his nanny in the room. Yundong raised her eyebrows and looked at the silent duo. Jiming frowned when he saw the person who came in. Who are you? What do you want? Yundong took a step back and let Xue Rong come forward. Xue Rong looked at the two of them with hatred in his eyes, as if it would not be an exaggeration to cut them into pieces. He finally felt much better when he saw them tied up and unable to move. Jiming did not know him. Even though the guy had served him for a long time, he had never taken Xue Rong seriously. On the other hand, the nanny took a closer look at Xue Rong and suddenly reacted. Xue Rong. It's you. Jiming was confused. Who is it? He used to be a servant in the courtyard. He was one of the people who were sold 3 months ago. Jiming was enlightened. He looked at Xue Rong and asked, "Why are you here?" After a pause, he seemed to have thought of something and smiled. "You're very nostalgic. You've come to see your former master." Pfft, Xue Rong could not help but sneer. "That's right. I'm here to see what kind of outcome you lunatics have become." Jiming and the nanny's expressions changed at the same time. "What did you say?" Chapter 483, Am Mo Xulin's Envy. Xue Rong smiled. "If you remember selling a group of servants 3 months ago, then you should also remember the 2 maidservants who were killed at that time. One of them," he took a deep breath and his eyes turned ruthless, "was my sister." The 2 of them were stunned. They looked at Xue Rong warily. Xue Rong had already walked up to them and said maliciously, "Do you know why the Xue family lost so quickly? It's because before my sister died, she saw 2 letters in young master's room. When you were searching for her, she was hiding under the bed. She heard your conversation clearly." Jiming and the nanny's faces immediately turned pale. So that was what happened. It was actually that little girl who tricked them and exposed the place where they usually placed important letters. It was actually the dead little girl. Xue Rong was delighted to see their expressions. "Go to hell and apologize to my sister. Apologize and repent for those who were killed by you. It's not in vain for you to live in this world." Ha ha ha. He laughed until tears came out. Yundong turned to look at him. However, Jiming seemed to have finally come back to his senses. He rushed towards Xue Rong with bloodshot eyes. Yundong raised her leg and kicked him back. Jiming's body was not in good condition. The moment he fell to the ground, he started coughing violently. Seeing that he was coughing up blood, Xue Rong finally wiped his face and turned to Yundong. "Miss, let's go." "Yeah." The 2 of them no longer looked at the dejected nanny and Jiming, who was still unable to get up. When they walked out of the door, they felt that the entire sky was bright. It was as if the previous storm was an illusion. After exiting the room, Am Mo Xulin glanced at the two people inside and gave a look to the soldier on guard at the side, telling him to go and see Xue and Jiming. At the very least, before the man was dragged away to be beheaded, he did not want the man to die. When he saw the soldier run in, he turned around again. He had wanted to say something to Yundong. Unexpectedly, when he turned around, he saw Xue Rong kneeling on the ground with a bang and kowtowing 3 times to Yundong. "Thank you, miss." Yundong was also shocked by him. She quickly smiled and helped him up. "For what? If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have found the evidence so quickly." As she spoke, she turned around and took out a jade pendant from the small box Am Mo Xulin was holding. She handed it over. "I don't know how much this is worth, but it's definitely not ordinary if it's placed in the Xue family's warehouse. Take it as a reward." Xue Rong stared blankly at the jade pendant that was stuffed into his hand. It took him a while to react. He hurriedly wanted to return it to her, but Yundong glared at him fiercely. Xue Rong fell silent and could only accept it carefully. His heart was filled with sourness and warmth. This was a feeling he had never felt in all his years in the Xue residence. Unfortunately, his sister did not have such good fortune and did not meet such a good master. Xue Rong wiped the corners of his eyes and hurriedly followed Yundong. He did not notice that Am Mo Xulin, who was carrying a small box behind him, was looking at him with envy. Yundong had already gone to the house on the right, where the second young master of the Xue family, Zhiyuan, was locked up. When the door was opened, there was a commotion inside. A few sharp screams instantly came. Chapter 484. Yundong beat someone. Yundong felt as if her eardrums were about to burst, and she stopped in her tracks. When the screams stopped, she looked inside. Compared to the 2 people in the eldest young master's room, this room was much livelier. There was not only second young master Xue Zhiyuan, but also his wife, who was the daughter of the prefecture magistrate, and the concubine with the same name as hers. There were also the mother of the concubine, Xue Zhiyuan's 2 maids, and 3 other concubines. Yundong had heard from Xue Rong that Xue Zhiyuan was lecherous, so there were many beauties in the backyard. However, not many were taken in as concubines. After all, there was a wife there. Initially, there were more than a few concubines. However, there were endless open and hidden conflicts in the backyard. Once they were no longer liked by Xue Zhiyuan, these concubines would not end well. Therefore, the remaining concubines were all successful people left behind after the house fights. However, the strange thing was that the 2 young masters of the Xue family had yet to have a child. It was understandable for the eldest young master. His wife had died early and his health was not good. However, not only did the second young master have a young and beautiful wife, but he also had concubines who were as beautiful as flowers. None of them had given birth to a child for him. It was probably because he had done too much evil. Yundong shook her head and sighed as she walked towards them. Xue Zhiyuan narrowed his eyes and took a closer look at Yundong. Perhaps out of habit, his eyes lit up when he saw a young and beautiful girl walking over. He even swallowed his saliva unconsciously. Yundong was disgusted by his gaze. F*ck, he was already a prisoner, yet he still had a lustful heart. She stepped forward and punched him hard in the eye. "Ah!" Xue Zhiyuan cried out in pain. The women beside him all looked at Yundong in shock. "What are you doing? Who are you? Who are you to hit my husband? Do you know who I am?" Judging from her tone, she should be Xue Zhiyuan's wife. Yundong turned to look at her and smiled. "What a show-off. Who are you?" "Oh, I know. Are you the daughter of the prefecture magistrate?" "Poor thing. The prefecture magistrate has been arrested too." The woman was stunned and her expression changed. "Impossible. How could my father be captured? Otherwise, why hasn't he come to save you yet? It's because he can't even protect himself. This time, not only did the woman's expression turn ugly, but the others were also stunned. They had all been brought into this room and locked up by the soldiers who had suddenly appeared. They had vaguely heard that their crime included colluding with the enemy and betraying the country. The soldiers were to execute their entire families. All of them were trembling in fear. Their only hope was second young mistress' father, who was an official. Therefore, even though they were locked in such a small room, they were still very respectful to the second young madam. Their attitude was even a little flattering. They only hoped that when she was saved, she would take them away with her. After all, no one wanted to die. But now, they were told that even the prefecture magistrate couldn't protect himself, so who else could save them? Instantly, the other women present began to look at the young madam differently. They even began to blame each other. Yundong did not look at them. Her gaze landed on Zhiyuan again, and the corners of her lips curled up again. Zhiyuan felt his scalp go numb for some reason and could not help but move back. However, Yundong suddenly stepped forward, clenched her fists, took a deep breath, and hit him heavily. Ah! Stop, what are you doing? What right do you have to hit me? Chapter 485, Remember Dajiang. Yundong did not speak, but her punches became heavier and heavier. Not only did Zhiyuan scream in pain, even the others beside him were trembling in fear. The concubines did not dare to come forward, but Madame Tang shouted, "Stop! Who are you? Did my husband offend you? We were arrested, but there's still the imperial court to convict us. You're using lynching." Yundong felt an itch in her ears. Were these people used to being high and mighty masters? Were they so arrogant that they could not see their own situation clearly? No one made a sound. Only she was still in the limelight. Yundong finally stopped and narrowed her eyes to look in that direction. Madame Tang trembled under her cold gaze and had a bad feeling. Yundong lifted her leg and kicked Zhiyuan. Then, she left him and walked towards Madame Tang step by step. What are you doing? Madame Tang was a little afraid now. She sat on the ground and moved back. Yundong bent down and slapped her face. Madame Tang widened her eyes in shock. Yundong smiled and slapped her again. Ah, another slap. Yundong looked at her well-proportioned red and swollen face and smiled in satisfaction. How beautiful. You don't even have to put on rouge. Thank me properly. Madame Tang wanted to speak and curse, but her face was unbelievably swollen. The moment she opened her mouth, it hurt terribly. On the other side, there was a small pft sound. It was not loud. Unfortunately, Yundong's sharp ears still heard it. She raised her eyebrows and looked at the person who was laughing. She was about the same age as Yundong herself, and she was standing next to a familiar-looking woman. Oh, Yundong remembered now. Wasn't this woman the one she had seen in the kitchen? So the one next to her should be the concubine Yundong. She walked towards her. The concubine was a little afraid of her. When she saw that Yundong had noticed her, she immediately swallowed nervously. Before she could speak, Yundong slapped her. The concubine's eyes widened. Why did you hit me? I didn't say anything bad about you, and I didn't offend you. Yundong did not say anything. She slapped her a few more times. When she felt a little better, she finally stopped. The concubine did not dare to speak, and her mother was even more afraid of death. She did not even dare to look. The entire house was silent. No one dared to make a sound. Especially the concubines, they were trembling in fear. Master had been beaten up, young madam had been beaten up, and the concubine had also been beaten up. Was it their turn next? Just as they were feeling uneasy, Gu Yundong stood up. Her cold gaze swept across the three of them. It was just a little pain. How could it compare to the pain of her father being thrown out of the Axayan residence with blood all over his body and almost losing his life? How could it compare to the pain of his shoulder being burned and blistered? How could it compare to the feeling of helplessness when his fingers were broken and he could not even lift the bowl and chopsticks? It was just a few slaps. Not hurtful at all. Xan Zhiyuan finally recovered. He looked at Gu Yundong with hatred. Who exactly are you? Second young master is forgetful. Let me remind you. Gu Yundong glanced at him. A month ago, did second young master beat up a man called Gu Dajiang and throw him out of the Axane residence? Chapter 486, In the farmer girl you're looking for. Xan Zhiyuan frowned, unable to recall. Instead, it was Madame Tang and the Gu concubine who had a deep impression of that competition. They immediately widened their eyes in shock. Who are you to him? The two of them spoke almost at the same time. Xan Zhiyuan finally thought of the poor-looking man who was dressed in rags. Gu Yundong squatted down. Am his daughter. The expressions of the three of them changed drastically. That person's daughter. They knew in their hearts how badly that person had been beaten up back then. After being thrown out of the Axayan family, he would most likely not survive. So, his daughter was here to avenge him. Gu Yundong seemed to know what they were thinking. Don't worry. My father isn't dead. He's alive and well. But I'm not sure if you're going to die soon. She stood up and looked down at the three of them. Actually, I was thinking that since my father was beaten up by the three of you, I wouldn't implicate the innocent. I would just settle the score with the three of you. Unfortunately, she smiled and suddenly looked at Xan Zhiyuan. A bad premonition flashed across the Xan Zhiyuan's heart, and his voice trembled slightly. Unfortunately what? It's a pity that you have designs on white sugar. Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. Didn't you want to go to the Xuanhe prefecture to find the farmer who made white sugar and force them to hand over the formula so that you can use it to earn money? Xan Zhiyuan's pupils constricted. How did you know? Of course I know. After all, I'm the farmer you're looking for. How is it? Isn't it a surprise? Xan Zhiyuan looked at her as if he had seen a ghost. His mind was in a mess. This person was the sugar producer. This person was the daughter of the man he had attacked back then. This person actually knew that he had designs on white sugar. He lowered his eyes and muttered, how could it be? How could it be? Gu Yundong still felt that it was not enough. She said, actually, when I first came to the Wanqing prefecture, I really thought of cooperating with the Axayan family. Unfortunately, before I could find second young master, I encountered you trying to kill my father. My father had to recuperate for a month before he could walk. I have to settle this score with you no matter what, right? I didn't expect that when I was thinking of a way to deal with you, you still didn't think that you had done enough evil and wanted to find the person who made white sugar. Then I really can't let you off. Look, this is probably what they mean by karma, right? If you had treated my father better and been more polite back then, you might not have ended up like this. Xan Zhiyuan's face turned pale. So, everything was because they had attacked that man. After Gu Yundong finished speaking, her hand was still itchy and she wanted to hit them again. However, Am Mo Xulin finally pushed open the door and entered. That's enough. Anyway, they won't have a good ending. Gu Yundong glanced at him before walking out of the door. To be honest, her hand still hurt a little, but it felt good to hit others with her hand. Before the door could close, the house was already in chaos. Hearing Am Mo Xulin's words, which seemed to be a death sentence, and hearing Gu Yundong's words, which explained that the source of everything was actually the competition between the Tang and Gu concubines, the other concubines who had been implicated could not help but pounce on them one by one and bite and kick them. Bitch, it's all your fault. If you want to fight, then fight. Why torture an outsider whose identity you didn't even know? We're dead because of you. Chapter 487, satisfied Gu Yundong looked at him and shrugged. See? Even if I don't do anything, they'll be beaten half to death. Am Mo Xulin had a headache. He signaled for the people at the door to hold them back. Seriously, they could still fight so fiercely even with their hands and feet tied. What surprised him was actually the mother of the Gu concubine. She was actually hitting the Gu concubine most fiercely. She kicked and scolded, "You jinx, I'm really unlucky to have you. I'll die with you." As she spoke, she shouted towards the soldiers who rushed over, "Sir, I'm not from the Xue family. My daughter is only a concubine. I'm not even a proper relative of the Xue family. Let me go." No one paid attention to her. Am Mo Xulin had already closed the door. "All right, now that you've vented your anger, and everyone in the Xue family can't escape, you can rest assured, right?" Gu Yundong took the small box from his hand and snorted. "Only sort of." With that, she led Xue Rong to the door. After leaving the door, she saw the Duan siblings talking. When they saw her, they were both stunned. After Gu Yundong left, Miss Duan asked, "Who is that girl? Why can she enter?" "Lord Am Mo only said that her surname is Gu. I don't know anything else. She shouldn't be from Wanqing Prefecture." Duan Qian said, "But Lord Am Mo treats her very well. I'm afraid we can't offend her. When we meet in the future, it's better to befriend her." "I see." Duan Wan nodded. The Duan family was in business, so their interests were naturally very important. They knew what was beneficial to them. Gu Yundong carried the small box back to the inn. It was already noon. There were people everywhere in the lobby of the inn. As soon as they walked in, they heard about the prefecture magistrate and the Xue family. Everyone was discussing. Some of them were well informed and even said that there was a huge commotion in the capital. It was even more bloody than in Wanqing Prefecture. Gu Yundong let it go and went upstairs with Xue Rong. When she reached the door, she saw Tong Shuetao welcoming her happily. She pushed Xue Rong to the side and whispered into Gu Yundong's ear, "Miss, Master has been sitting in the room for a long time. He won't listen to me even if I persuade him to lie down." Gu Yundong nodded. She pushed the door open and saw Gu Dajiang sitting there with a frown. No one knew what he was thinking. She sat opposite him with a smile. "Father, have you eaten lunch?" When Gu Dajiang saw her, he could finally ask the question that had been accumulating in his heart for a long time. "Yundong, there are rumors everywhere that the Xue residence has been confiscated. Is that true?" "Of course it is." "Then, this matter, father wants to ask me if I'm involved in this matter." Gu Dajiang hesitated for a moment before nodding. He felt that it was a little surreal. If his daughter got involved, the other party was the Xue family. No one in the entire Wanqing Prefecture dared to offend the Xue family. How could his daughter get involved with a 100-year-old family that even the Duan family had to retreat from? However, if his daughter was not involved, then during this period of time, Yundong had been too busy. Occasionally, when she mentioned the Xue family, she would look as if the other party was about to be finished. Yesterday, she even said that a storm was coming. All of this indicated that Yundong might know something. Not only did she know, but she had also done something. Gu Dajiang thought of the angry and suppressed expression on Yundong's face when she found out that he had been beaten half to death by the second young master of the Xue family. "So, you got involved. Chapter 488, Strange Paper Appears. Yes, I'm involved. The dust had settled, so she didn't have to hide it anymore. Gu Dajiang's eyes widened. It was really. Then, how much did you get involved in? Seeing his conflicted expression, Gu Yundong could not help but laugh. More or less. It's the most crucial step. Which step? Father should already know that Xue Rong came from the Xue family, right? Gu Yundong told him about how Xue Rong's sister had accidentally found out about the evidence of the Xue family's crimes. She did not go into too much detail. Anyway, the charges against the Xue family would be out soon. His father would understand. On the other hand, Tong Xuetao finally understood why Xue Rong had been following Mississippi. It turned out that he had gone to do something big. She had misunderstood him. Thinking of this, Tong Xuetao looked at him apologetically. Seeing that he was still holding a heavy small box, she quickly went to take it to relieve his burden. Unexpectedly, Xue Rong turned his body and moved the box to the other side, not letting her touch it. Tong Xuetao, get lost. Gu Dajiang was shocked when he heard that. It turned out that this was so complicated. Xue Rong had such a tragic history. The eldest young master of the Xue family was simply a beast. Gu Dajiang admitted that he had seen many such crazy things on his way to escape, but when he heard this story, he was still so angry that his entire body trembled. It took him a while to calm down. Fortunately, evil had its retribution. He looked at Xue Rong and said, "Now that you've taken revenge, you can stay at our house in peace in the future. Our family is different from the Xue family. We won't do such a crazy thing." "Yes, my lord." When Gu Dajiang looked at Gu Yundong again, his face was filled with relief. As he watched, he couldn't help but laugh. Gu Yundong's face darkened. "Father, what are you laughing at?" "Father just thinks that our Yundong is a very outstanding person. That's for sure." As Gu Yundong spoke, she asked Xue Rong to place the small box on the table. She pushed it in front of Gu Dajiang. In the face of his puzzled expression, Gu Yundong smiled slyly. "This is the reward they gave me. Father, would you take a look?" Gu Dajiang opened the box suspiciously. The next moment, he was stunned. He looked at the contents of the small box in disbelief. He felt as if his eyes were about to be blinded. Gu Yundong took out a book from inside. "I heard that this is the only copy. Father, take a look." Gu Dajiang suddenly came back to his senses. His gaze landed on the book, and his fingers couldn't help but tremble when he saw the words on it. He wiped the sweat from his palms excitedly and took the book. Then, he carefully opened it. After reading a few pages, he cherished it and closed it again. "This is worth 1,000 gold coins." His gaze fell on the small box again, and his expression gradually became solemn. "Yundong, keep these things well. They'll be your dowry in the future." Gu Yundong laughed. "What dowry? I've picked it out for you." As she spoke, she began to take things out. "Look, this brush, this inkstone, do you like them? And this jade pendant, if I put it on your belt in the future, you will definitely look grand. And this fan, the words on it seem to have been written by some calligraphy expert in the past. And this. What is this?" Gu Yundong looked at the unfamiliar piece of paper that suddenly appeared in the small box. Chapter 489, we have a shop. She had personally placed everything in this small box. Gu Yundong was very sure that she had not put a piece of paper in. She pulled the paper out suspiciously and opened it to take a look. "This is," Gu Dajiang also came over and said in surprise, "a contract." "Yes, a contract." Moreover, it was a contract for the transfer of a shop. Gu Yundong looked at it once, then lowered her head to look in the box. As expected, she found a key. Gu Yundong laughed as she held the contract in one hand and the key in the other. It seems that Am Mo Xulin put it in this box. Perhaps he feels that he owes it to me. Thinking of the thousands of taels of silver in her spatial storage, Gu Yundong instantly felt a little guilty. However, the guilt was quickly sent flying. She held the contract and asked Gu Dajiang, "Father, do you want to take a look?" Gu Dajiang was a little excited. He read the contract again and again. "This shop belongs to our family." "Yes. Let's go take a look." Gu Dajiang stood up. Perhaps because the movement was too big, it pulled at his wound and he immediately gritted his teeth. Gu Yundong quickly reached out to help him up. "Father, why don't we go when you're better?" "No need, no need." Gu Dajiang waved his hand. After a while, he felt much better. Then, he smiled and said, "I'm fine. I'm much better. It's just that I rose too suddenly just now. Doctor, you also said that after lying down for a month, I can go out for a walk." "Alright, let's go over and take a look. But we have to eat lunch first." Gu Yundong had glanced at the address just now. It seemed to be on the same road as this inn, so it was not far. Xue Rong went down to get the waiter to serve the food. At this moment, the people downstairs had yet to disperse. Although they had eaten and drunk their fill, they were still discussing things. All of them were red in the face. When Gu Yundong and the others came down, they saw someone talking loudly. The guy was so excited that he even danced. Gu Yundong hurriedly helped Gu Dajiang to the side to avoid being hit. After leaving the inn, she realized that there were many people discussing this matter outside. Occasionally, when they passed by a small stall, they could hear the stall owner and customers chatting. It seemed that this matter had caused a stir in the entire city. The four of them walked slowly, so they listened all the way. When they arrived at their destination, they saw a large shop with 8 rooms in front of them. However, there was a seal on the entrance of the shop, clearly forbidding anyone from entering. Gu Yundong lowered her head and carefully looked at the address on the contract. Then, she looked up at the shop in front of her. That's right, this was the place. Xue Rong was silent for a moment before walking forward and saying, "Miss, this shop seemed to belong to the Xue family previously. The Xue family's house was confiscated, so the shop must have been sealed. The contract that Lord Am Mo gave you is a red contract, so it must have been registered in the government. It's just that the government office is in chaos now, so they probably haven't had time to remove the seal." Gu Yundong thought about it and agreed. They had started arresting people before dawn today. It had not even been a day yet. How could they have the time to care about a small shop? "Since it's still sealed, let's go back," Gu Dajiang said. He did want to go in and take a look. This shop seemed to be quite big, and there was probably a courtyard behind it. The sign said that it was a silk shop. It should have been in the cloth and satin business in the past. The four of them returned in disappointment and could only return to the inn first. Unexpectedly, as soon as they entered, the waiter welcomed them. "Master Gu, Miss Gu, you're back. Someone is looking for you." Chapter 490, Do you want to come with us? Someone was looking for him. Gu Yundong followed the waiter's finger and saw the person standing not far from the staircase. It was Uncle Yu. Uncle Yu also saw them and hurried forward. Dajiang. After greeting him, he sized his friend up from head to toe. "Are your injuries healed? Brother Yu, why are you here?" Gu Dajiang was also very surprised. He happily patted Uncle Ye's shoulder. In the end, he accidentally pulled his wound again. Gu Yundong held her forehead. "Father, let's go upstairs first." Uncle Yu nodded repeatedly. "Yes, yes, yes. Be quiet. It'll help you walk." Uncle Yu actually already knew how Gu Dajiang's injury came about. The last time Xue Rong went to the Yu family, he mentioned it, but he didn't say that it was done by the Xian family. However, as soon as Xue Rong left, Grandpa Yu asked Uncle Yu to find out. Uncle Yu had been in the prefectural city for a while and knew many people. In addition, Gu Yundong had met Gu Dajiang when she went to the Xian residence that day. He had gone to the Xian residence to ask around and knew what had happened. The father and son pondered for a moment and quickly understood why Gu Yundong did not let them see Gu Dajiang. Perhaps it was the after effects of escaping from the famine, but the three of them were very sensitive to some subtle changes. For example, the atmosphere in the city seemed to be very tense recently, as if something big was about to happen. In order to avoid causing trouble for the Gu family, they didn't visit Gu Dajiang again. Even Uncle Yu, who was working outside, did not go out much these days. At most, he found jobs nearby. Today, when Uncle Yu went to the market, he happened to hear that the Xian family was finished. He could not wait to come over. The group entered the house, and Tong Shuitao obediently served tea. Uncle Yu then asked about Gu Dajiang's situation. Knowing that he was fine, he heaved a sigh of relief. My father was also very worried about you. No one expected you to encounter such a thing. Fortunately, the Xian family has been confiscated. It can be considered retribution. Uncle Yu sighed as he looked at Gu Dajiang. At this moment, Gu Dajiang was completely different from a month ago. It was as if he had become a different person. His face was no longer as gray as before, and his clothes were no longer tattered. Even his spirit was better, and he seemed to have gained weight. He even had a faint aura. He had studied before, and now, he looked more refined. Facing Gu Dajiang like this, Uncle Yu felt inexplicably ashamed and uncomfortable. He could not help but tug his hand and ask, by the way, you've recovered. Are you planning to return to the Xuanhe prefecture? Yes, my wife, second son, and youngest daughter are all at home. I want to see them as soon as possible. So, when do you plan to leave? Gu Dajiang pointed at Gu Yundong. You have to ask her. I feel that my injuries are almost healed. It's not a big problem to be careful on the way. However, Yundong said that I have to stay for half a month before she's willing to leave. She's afraid that I won't be able to take it on the way. There was some pride in his words. Gu Dajiang couldn't change the habit of showing off his child's filial piety in front of his friends. Gu Yundong laughed. Father, don't mess around. Doctor Yu only allowed you to leave this in today. As she spoke, she turned to look at Uncle Yu. Uncle, actually, I have something to ask you. Yes. What is it? Do you want to return to the Xuanhe prefecture with us? Chapter 491, Going to the Yu family again. Uncle Yu was stunned. To the Xuanhe prefecture. Yes, I was thinking that you cannot return to the village you were in now and you don't have any relatives in the prefectural city. My father has been under your care these few days. He's your friend and can't bear to part with you. Gu Dajiang nodded repeatedly. Yes, why don't you come with us? Gu Yundong continued, our Yongfu village is actually not bad. The village chief is also kind, and the villagers are very diligent and friendly. If you come, we can take care of each other. I have a workshop in the village and don't have enough manpower now. If you can come and help me, it'll be most at ease. Uncle Yes' fingers moved. Help her. She was clearly the one helping them. She wanted them to know that they wouldn't have to worry about not having a job even if they went to Yongfu village. Uncle Yu was tempted for a moment, but he quickly suppressed it. He thought for a while before saying, I have to go back and discuss it with my father and Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin was his son. Of course. Uncle Yu chatted with Gu Dajiang for a while more. After all, he had something on his mind and returned not long after. Gu Dajiang looked at his back and said to Gu Yundong, it's unlikely that the Yu family will follow us back to Yongfu village. Gu Yundong was stunned. Why? You'll find out in a day or two. Gu Yundong blinked, but on second thought, she felt that it made sense. After all, they had lived in Wanqing Prefecture for a period of time and had finally settled down. In the end, it didn't make sense for them to go all the way to a completely unfamiliar place. In fact, she was not confident. Forget it. Regardless of whether they went or not, she would respect their choice. 2 days later, Gu Yundong and Gu Dajiang went to Uncle Ye's courtyard. When she passed by that road again, the hooligans who had caused her trouble were no longer there. However, many of the neighbors who lived there greeted Gu Dajiang curiously when they saw him. Especially when they saw 2 servants following behind him, they started whispering. Gu Dajiang is rich. He even has servants now. Look at his clothes. I saw them at the silk shop last time. They cost 3 taels of silver. Wow, so expensive. In the past, Gu Dajiang even had to use 3 copper coins sparingly. Do you think they're going to the Yu family? Is the Yu family going to get rich too? Tisk, forget it. Let me tell you, it's been a month since Gu Dajiang left. Only 2 servants have come. He just showed his face today. Didn't you see that the Yu family has been living so bitterly for the past month? If Gu Dajiang really had a conscience, he would have given the Yu family a couple of taels of silver. The Yu family wouldn't still be living in this lousy place. Oh, how dare you say that? Do you think a couple of taels of silver come from the wind? No one dared to say these words in front of Gu Dajiang and the others. They only started spouting nonsense when they disappeared. At this moment, Gu Yundong and the others had already entered the Yu family. Uncle Yu was cleaning the courtyard. When he saw them enter, he quickly came over to help Gu Dajiang sit. Uncle Yu, I'm fine. You don't have to help me. Don't take advantage of the fact that you're still young and don't pay attention. If you fall ill, you'll suffer when you reach my age. Gu Yundong nodded vigorously. Grandpa Yu is right. Uncle Yu also came out at this moment. After everyone sat down, Gu Yundong got down to business. Chapter 492, The Yu family's decision. Grandpa Yu, have you considered it? Do you want to return to the Xuanhe prefecture with us? Gu Yundong hoped that they would leave together. The Yu family did not have any relatives here. If they encountered any problems, they would be isolated and helpless. At the very least, they would be able to take care of each other when they went to the Xuanhe prefecture. Moreover, the Yu family had taken care of her father for so long. She wanted to repay them no matter what. Uncle Yu and Uncle Yu looked at each other. A moment later, Uncle Yu wiped his face and said with a smile, Gu girl, Grandpa Yu thanks you for your kind intentions. However, we still want to stay in Wanqing prefecture. But, Uncle Yu waved his hand and interrupted her persuasion. I know you want to take care of us. I also believe that if we follow you to the Xuanhe prefecture, we won't have to worry about food and clothing. Our lives will be much better than now. However, we can't rely on you for everything. Yes, your father received our help a few months ago, but we only gave him a place to live. Compared to the time when you sent a basket of food to save our lives, it's insignificant. Gu Yundong said, the basket of sweet potatoes I gave you was because you informed us in advance so that we could avoid the chaos. In that case, you should be the ones who saved us first. Uncle Yu laughed out loud. All right. If you want to calculate it this way, you won't be able to finish it. He was in a good mood and did not regret helping this young lady at all. There was a cause and an effect. The old saying was indeed true. Uncle Yu smiled, but very quickly, his expression became serious again. Gu girled, actually, there's another important reason why we didn't go to the Xuanhe prefecture. As he spoke, his expression became a little sad. Back then, on the way to escape, my wife and my daughter-in-law didn't survive. Later, after we settled down in Wanqing Prefecture, we moved their graves over and let them settle down. During the new year, we would visit them and burn something for them. If we went to the Xuanhe Prefecture, it would be a long journey. It would be difficult to see them. As he spoke, he wiped his face. I'm already so old. I don't know how much longer I can live. When I'm free, I can still go and talk to my wife. Don't let no one visit them when the time comes. If the grass on the grave grows to half the height of a person and there's no one to take care of them, they'll be so sad. On the way to escape, they starved to death to give us a bite to eat. How can we leave them behind now? In the end, Uncle Yu could not help but tear up. Yundong panicked and quickly handed him a handkerchief. Yes, Grandpa Yu is right. I didn't consider everything. It's my fault. Uncle Yu quickly stopped his tears and smiled when he heard her words. What's your fault? You're a good child. You want Grandpa Yu to live a good life, but Grandpa Yu has 3 grown sons. How can he let a little girl who hasn't reached adulthood take care of him? Uncle Yu's eyes were also red. Although he was sad at the mention of his deceased mother and wife, he could still control his emotions. He only said with a slightly choked voice, "That's right, Gu girl. Just take your father back in peace and don't worry about us. Let's work hard. Our lives will get better. The next time you come, we might all live in a big house." Gu Yundong smiled. All right, I'll wait. After a pause, she said, "But if you don't follow us to the Xuanhe Prefecture, I have something to ask you for help with." Chapter 493, Eugene being beaten. Gu Dajiang, who had been silent all this while, was stunned. Then, as if he had thought of something, he immediately stopped talking. Uncle Yu and Uncle Yu were very straightforward. "Tell us, what do you need our help with? As long as we can do it, we will definitely help. I have a shop in Wanqing Prefecture, but there's no one." Before she could finish speaking, she saw someone running in from the door. Gu Yundong took a closer look. Wasn't this Grandpa Zhang, whom she had met the other day? Old Yu, quickly go over and take a look. Your grandson was beaten up. Everyone in the room was stunned and hurriedly stood up. Seeing this, Gu Yundong immediately reached out to help Gu Dajiang. Xue Rong immediately supported Uncle Yu and the few of them walked out of the courtyard. Eugene happened to walk into the courtyard. When he saw everyone, he was stunned for a moment before squeezing out a smile. Uncle Gu, you're here. Everyone looked at his face. It was bruised and swollen. He did look like he had been beaten up. Uncle Yu took 2 steps forward. What happened? How did you get beaten up like this? Who hit you? Eugene shook his head. Master, I'm fine. I also beat the other party up. He's even worse than me. When the 2 Yu family members heard this, their anger decreased a little. They quickly brought Eugene into the house. Uncle Yu hurriedly went not far away to send for a doctor. The other party took a look, prescribed some medicine, and left. It was not a big deal. Uncle Yu regained his senses and asked, "What happened? Aren't you in the shop now?" When he heard about the shop, Eugene's expression darkened. "Father, there's no more work in the shop. You'll find another one later." "Why is it gone?" Eugene pursed his lips and said in a low voice, "Wasn't the Axayan family's house confiscated? Their shops were also taken back by the imperial court. The shopkeepers and waiters inside are all being interrogated. Those who are guilty were arrested, and those who aren't guilty were released. In the past, there was a waiter who worked in the Axayan family's shop. He was our shopkeeper's relative. Now that the waiter has nothing to do, he came to our shop to find a job. The result was obvious. The shopkeeper didn't like Eugene to begin with. After all, Eugene was tolerant and diligent. The boss had already praised him twice when he came twice. If this continued, Eugene would probably replace him as the shopkeeper. This time, his relative came to look for work, and he immediately agreed. He was picky with Eugene, saying that if he kept breaking stuff and his salary would be deducted and he would have to compensate. Eugene could be considered to have been trained to have a good temper. Even so, he could not help but flare up. He finally knew that no matter how well he did, no matter how much he could tolerate, the shopkeeper would find a reason for him to make room for his relative. As soon as this anger rose, he simply quit. He pointed at the shopkeeper and scolded him fiercely. The shopkeeper was so angry that he fell backward. The relative beside him, who had been watching the show, rolled up his sleeves and was about to hit him for helping him vent his anger. The two of them started fighting in the shop. After all, Eugene had experienced a disaster and had a lot of strength. That person was no match for him. If the shopkeeper had not rushed up to help, Eugene would not have been injured. Uncle Yu and his son were furious when they heard that. This shopkeeper is not a good person. In the past, he used to say that our Xiao Jin did not do well and gave us less money. Now, in order to make room for his relative, he even tormented our Xiao Jin like this. Gu Yundong looked at Gu Dajiang and suddenly said, "That's great." Chapter 494, What About Me? The Yu father and son were speechless. Huh? Uncle Yu asked uncertainly, "Gu girl, do you mean that it's too good for Xiao Jin to hit the shopkeeper?" "No, I mean, it's great that brother Eugene isn't working in that shop." Everyone was speechless. Gu Yundong smiled. "Actually, even if this hadn't happened to brother Eugene today, I would have asked him to quit his job in the shop. I've long heard that his shopkeeper is stingy and he doesn't earn much money. The shopkeeper doesn't do anything and only knows how to boss people around. The better brother Eugene does, the more others don't like him. How many years will it take for him to stand out in such a place? So I want to invite brother Eugene, Uncle Yu, and grandfather Yu to help in my shop." The three members of the Yu family widened their eyes and exclaimed, "Your shop?" "Yes." Gu Yundong said in embarrassment, "I just got a shop recently and haven't opened business yet. Actually, I was thinking that if you come back to the Xuanhe prefecture with us, we'll have to find someone else to help look after this shop. But I'm not familiar with the Wanqing prefecture. Uncle Yu knows many people, so I want Uncle Yu to introduce someone. Since you're not coming with us, I can ask you to help take care of the shop. To be honest, I only trust you here." The Yu family members looked incredulous. You mean, you want us to look after the shop?" "Yes, didn't brother Eugene work in a grocery store? It just so happens that I plan to open a grocery store in my place." Gu Yundong actually wanted to open a shop selling all kinds of sweets, dried fruits, and preserved fruits, just like Gus in Fengkai County. However, this place was too far from Yongfu village. It would take a lot of time and money to transport the goods over. The cost was too high, and it was not worth it. At the very least, she had to wait until her business expanded and there was a workshop here. Later on, she even thought of opening a medicinal shop, but selling herbs required a professional. Moreover, the preparation of the medicinal shop at the beginning would take too much time. After thinking about it, he could open a grocery store first. Firstly, it could help the Yu family. After all, Eugene had experience and it was convenient for him to do this. Secondly, Uncle was actually quite a loyal and talkative person. He had only been in Wanqing Prefecture for half a year, but he knew many people from all walks of life and had channels to buy goods. Previously, it was because Uncle Yu had introduced a cheap supply channel to the grocery store where Eugene was working that Eugene caught the eye of the boss and received the boss praise, causing the shopkeeper to be dissatisfied. Thirdly, it was easy for the grocery store to change business. Gu Yundong had seen that the location of the shop was very good. In the future, when her business grew and she had a workshop here, she could still sell canned candy inside. It would be easy for the grocery store to change business. After the Yu family heard what she said, they could not come back to their senses for a long time. They knew very well that Gu Yundong was clearly helping them, but she kept saying that they were the only people she could trust. This made them unable to find a reason to refuse. Uncle Yu, just agree. Otherwise, Yundong really doesn't know who to look for. I'm also in a hurry to go home and see my wife and kids. If Yundong's shop isn't settled, we won't be able to leave. Gu Dajiang also persuaded them. Since they had already said this, the three members of the Yu family immediately gritted their teeth and nodded. All right, then we'll help you look after this shop. What about me? At this moment, a faint voice suddenly came from behind. Chapter 495, Let's go see the shop together. Everyone suddenly turned around and saw Grandpa Zhang squeezing out a smile. He chuckled as he approached Gu Yundong and said, Well, Miss Gu, actually, I'm still young, strong, and capable. Do you think I can also go to your shop to help? This person actually didn't leave. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. She was a little unwilling to look at Grandpa Zhang. She was silent for a while before saying, Since the shop has been handed over to Grandpa Yu, it's up to them whether they need people or not. Grandpa Zhang immediately turned his head and looked at Uncle Yu pitifully. Old Yu, we've been friends for many years. You know me best. Look, for many years. Their family had only moved here half a year earlier. The corners of Uncle Yu's mouth twitched as he said, It's too early to talk about this. We still don't know where the shop is, how big it is, or what the situation is. No matter what, you have to wait for us to take a look before we can decide, right? Grandpa Zhang thought about it and agreed. He quickly said, All right, then it's settled. If you lack people, you definitely have to look for me. I'm still young and strong. Uncle Yu was speechless. All right, go home first. We haven't discussed this matter yet. We have to take it slow. Although Grandpa Zhang still wanted to listen, he was afraid that the other party would get impatient and he would really not have a chance. He sighed and looked at Gu Yundong, then at Gu Dajiang, and finally at Uncle Yu. Finally, he left reluctantly. Everyone from the Yu family looked helpless. After he left and Eugene closed the courtyard door, Uncle Yu said, Old Zhang's mouth is mean, but he is a good person. However, he's old. If we really need to hire someone, his eldest son is diligent enough. Gu Dajiang nodded. Indeed. Brother Zhang is a good person and has a good memory. Grandpa Yu, I've already said that it's up to you to decide whether to hire someone or not. In any case, you're the one paying the wages, Gu Yundong said. Me? Of course. I'm in the Xuanhe prefecture. Even if I want to come, I can only come once in a year. You have to take care of everything here. Therefore, I've thought about the salary and will give you dividends directly. You can take 30% of what you earn every month. The more you earn, the more you get. That won't do. Uncle Yu immediately shook his head. We're just looking after the shop. A fixed salary is enough. Gu Yundong knew that he was unwilling to take advantage of others, so she could only speak patiently from the perspective of a businessperson. Grandpa Yu, let's not talk about anything else. Let's just say that this is the first time you've opened a shop and are managing it yourself. Other than brother Eugene having some experience, you have to slowly figure everything out. So for the first few months, it will be hard to tell if you'd make a profit. If you lose money and we give you a high monthly salary, you'll definitely feel bad, right? The Yu father and son looked at each other. Gu Yundong spoke logically and she was eloquent. In the end, they decided on the dividends. In the end, she said, By the way, that shop has a backyard. It's quite big. You guys can move in there. Firstly, it's convenient. After all, this place is a little far. Secondly, there will be people guarding the shop. It's safer. Uncle Yu sighed inwardly. Seeing that she was smiling as if she would not give up if he did not agree, he smiled and nodded. You, Gu girl, can we take a look at that shop? Sure. Chapter 496, Complicated Feelings. It had been 2 days since the Axian residence had been raided. Someone was temporarily in charge of the government office, waiting for the emperor to transfer a new prefecture magistrate over. Gu Yundong's contract was personally given to her by Am Mo Xulin. Yesterday, Xue Rong had gone to the government office to ask about it. The contract had been opened early this morning, so it was not a problem for her to enter. When the group of people came out of the Yu residence, they saw many people looking over curiously. The crowd waited until they were gone before they began to talk. Where is the Yu family going? Could it be that Gu Dajiang is planning to give the Yu family some benefits on account of their past relationship? What benefits? Don't tell me they're going to help the Yu family move out of here. Stop joking. That's impossible. The Yu family doesn't have any luggage. How can they move out? I think they'll at most treat the Yu family to a meal at a big restaurant. No way. The Yu family took Gu Dajiang in for a few months, but he's repaying them with just one meal. That's too stingy. That's why Gu Dajiang is an ingrate. Cough, cough. Suddenly, a sudden cough sounded from behind the crowd. Everyone turned around and saw Grandpa Zhang standing behind them with an unfathomable expression. He sneered at these people who were making sarcastic remarks. Alright, why are you so troublesome? How can brother you not know what kind of person Gu Dajiang is? Go do what you need to do. Hey, old Zhang, you were in the Yu family just now, right? What did they say? Tell us. What did they say? Grandpa Zhang said impatiently. How would I know? Disperse, disperse. With that, he turned around and left with his hands behind his back. However, there was a sly smile on his face. He wasn't going to tell these people that the Yu family was about to own a shop. What if they went to fawn on old Yu later? When he was hired to work and earn money, he would show off in front of these people. Just thinking about it made him happy. They must have gone to look at the shop, right? Sigh, he really wanted to follow them to take a look. Uncle Yu, who was being gossiped about, felt his ears itch and could not help but reach out to rub them. The Yu family was a little far away from the shop. When they reached the entrance of the alley, everyone still got into the carriage. By the time they reached the shop, it was already past noon. Gu Yundong brought them to a nearby restaurant for a meal before walking towards the shop. Only when they stood at the entrance of the shop did the Yu family look ahead in shock. This was the shop that the Gu family was talking about. Such a big shop would be a grocery store. This was especially shocking for Eugene. He had been working in the grocery store for more than half a year and more or less knew some things. This was the busiest street in the entire Wanqing prefecture. This shop was at least twice the size of the one he stayed in. Most importantly, this used to be the silk shop of the Axian family. It was the place where the relative of the shopkeeper who ran to snatch his job this morning had worked. He never expected that the person who had arrogantly chased him out and told him to go back and do manual labor would now swap places with him. At this moment, Eugene's feelings were exceptionally complicated. What made him feel even more complicated was that he knew very well that with such a shop in such a place, no matter what business he opened, as long as he did not seek death, he would not lose out even if he did not have experience. Eugene could not help but look at Gu Yundong, who seemed to sense his gaze and met his hesitant expression. She guessed what he wanted to say and immediately blinked at him and shushed him. Chapter 497, all excited then, Gu Yundong called for everyone to go inside. The shop used to be a silk shop, but everything inside had been emptied. Those were also the assets of the Axian family. Naturally, they were taken away by the officials. However, there were still some fabrics that had been cut and left behind. They were still placed on the cabinet. Uncle Yu couldn't help but widen his mouth when he came in. Yundong, is this the shop you mentioned? Yes. It's huge. Gu Yundong looked at the empty room in front of her and was very satisfied. At least, it was much better than her shop in Fengkai County. However, one was a county city and the other was a prefectural city. It was normal for there to be differences. This is the first time I've come in to take a look. It's indeed quite big. However, we're a grocery store. If we place a lot of things, it'll naturally be small. In fact, grocery stores occupied the most space. Just look at modern supermarkets. They sold everything. When there were a lot of items, the place would be instantly full. Let's go to the backyard. Gu Yundong held Gu Dajiang's hand. Gu Dajiang was also very excited. This was his shop. Yes, it would be Yundong's dowry in the future. Although it was a little far from home, it was still a shop in the prefecture capital, and it was so big. He happily followed Gu Yundong to the backyard. The backyard of the shop was not small either. There were 3 rooms. In addition to the kitchen and outhouse, there was also a storeroom used to keep things. There was more than enough room for the 3 members of the Yu family here. It was much better than the previous small courtyard. There was ready-made furniture in the room. The bed, cabinet, and desk were all very neat. The Yu family could use them now. In the future, when they had money, they could buy new furniture if they didn't like it. However, Gu Yundong felt that the Yu family was used to being thrifty and would not change it unless it was time for Eugene to get married. The kitchen doesn't seem to be used much. It's still considered clean. Gu Yundong came out of the kitchen. It'll be convenient to cook here after you buy the ingredients. Uncle Yu smiled until his face was full of wrinkles. He was very excited. Yundong, don't worry. We'll do our best. His eyes were shining with enthusiasm and confidence for the future. Uncle Yu also nodded repeatedly. He touched the pillar at the side lovingly and walked back and forth in the courtyard twice. Actually, Gu Dajiang also wanted to touch it, but he was supported by Gu Yundong. His hand was held tightly, and he could not move his feet. He felt frustrated. After Eugene looked at the backyard, he started to roll up his sleeves. Father, I'll go to the front to clean up the shop now. Hey, I'll help too. Uncle Yu felt that he had become a few years younger and followed behind excitedly. Uncle Yu wanted to go too. He had already rolled up his sleeves when Gu Yundong pulled him back. Grandpa Yu, stay here and chat with my father. But if you go to clean up the shop, my father will definitely follow you. Look at his injuries. Uncle Yu immediately looked at Gu Dajiang solemnly. You can't let Yundong down. He's been gone for so long. Come, sit down and talk. You're leaving in a few days. I don't know when we'll meet again. Gu Dajiang could only sigh and rest. Tong Shuetao was quite diligent. She had already gone to the well to get water and carried the basin to the shop. Unexpectedly, as soon as she entered, she heard a voice outside. This shop is indeed open. Let's go in and take a look. Chapter 498. Want to buy this shop? Tong Shuetao looked up and saw a young girl walking in. She looked to be 15 or 16 years old and had a high posture. There were 2 maidservants following her. She glanced at them, then turned around and shouted, "Brother, there's someone inside." Soon, a man in his 20s followed in. He was also dressed in brocade and looked elegant. Eugene had already walked up to them and asked with a smile, "May I ask what's the matter?" He was smiling, but his face was still injured, so his smile looked a little twisted. The girl immediately took a step back. Stay away from me. Uncle Yu stepped forward. What's the matter? The girl asked arrogantly, Did you buy this shop? Well, be in charge of this shop from now on. The girl sized them up from head to toe for a while. Just you guys. Alright, I want to purchase this shop from you. Just name your price. Wan, don't be rude, Duan Qian scolded softly. His sister didn't get it, but he did. They were saying they were in charge, which meant the owner was someone else. Duan Wan was a little dissatisfied. We were the ones who took a fancy to it first. Who knew that someone would intercept us? The Axayan family's shops would be auctioned off by the imperial court after they were confiscated. Furthermore, the earlier the better. After all, the sudden closure of many shops in such a huge prefectural city would affect the lives of the commoners. The Duan family had bought the most shops this time. 1/3 of the Axayan family's shops had gone into their pockets. However, while Duan Qian had bought so many shops, the one he wanted the most was not on the auction list. He felt that it was strange and went to ask. Those people only said that it had been sold. Duan Qian thought very highly of this shop. The size was secondary. The main thing was that it was in a good location. He had been determined to get this shop before, and he did not expect such an outcome. Since the seal on the shop was removed this morning, he had gotten someone to watch over it. If they saw the owner, they had to quickly return to the Duan family to report. That was why he came to the shop with Duan Wan, who insisted on coming along, when he heard the news. Seeing that the Yu father and son didn't look too good after hearing Duan Wan's words, he immediately pushed Duan Wan back and took a few steps forward. He said politely, "Little brother, I'm from the Duan family. I want to talk to your boss about this shop. I wonder if it's convenient for you to introduce me to them." The Duan family. Uncle Yu and Eugene were naturally not unfamiliar with the Duan family. In their eyes, this was a colossus like the Axayan family. Previously, the Axayan family was still suppressing them. Now that the entire Axayan family had been exterminated, there was no one in the Wanqing prefecture who could suppress the Duan family. The Duan family wanted to buy this shop. The two of them immediately became worried. This was not to be trifled with. Uncle Yu was about to go in to look for Gu Yundong, but Tong Shuitao had already turned around smartly and gone in. She didn't dare to let Gu Dajiang and Uncle Yu know. She could only whisper into her Miss ear, "Miss, there are two people outside who call themselves the Duan family's young miss and young master. They want to buy our shop." The Duan family. Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. When she saw Gu Dajiang looking over, she quickly said, "Father, chat with Grandpa Yu first. They'll talk to Uncle Yu and the others about how to set up this shop and repair it." When Gu Dajiang saw Tong Shuitao's expression just now, he knew that it was definitely not that simple. However, he was afraid that Uncle Yu would be worried, so he did not say anything and only nodded. Gu Yundong gave Xue Rong a look and asked him to watch the two of them while she brought Tong Shuitao to the shop in front. Chapter 499, What does the shop do? Gu Yundong walked into the shop and recognized him at a glance. At the same time, Duan Qian and Duan Wan also recognized her. The two of them immediately narrowed their eyes and straightened their expressions. Duan Qian instantly smiled. "So it's Miss Gu. We didn't have the time to talk the last time we met. I didn't expect to see you again today." The father and son of the Yu family were surprised. The Gu girl actually knew the eldest young master of the Duan family. Gu Yundong smiled. "I heard that young Master Duan wants to buy our shop." Duan Qian sighed inwardly. After seeing Gu Yundong, he knew that there was not much hope. Others might consider the Duan family status and sell the shop to them if they were unwilling to offend the Duan family. But this Miss Gu. Actually, after Gu Yundong left that day, he had asked Am Mo Xulin about her background. Am Mo Xulin only said, "She's not a big shot. She doesn't have any background. However, I don't dare to offend her. Oh, and it's also because of her that your family can do this sugar business." So if you see her next time, stay away. Duan Qian had yet to recover from the shock of this girl being associated with the sugar business when he was stunned by Am Mo Xulin's incoherent words. Since she didn't have any background, why didn't he dare to offend her? If he had a sugar business because of her, why shouldn't he say thank you when he saw her? Instead, he had to stay far away. However, Am Mo Xulin did not say anything else. Others also kept their mouths shut even when he asked them. However, Duan Wan had told her that at the entrance of the Axian residence that day, she had personally seen Miss Gu throw a stone at the back of the head of the fourth brother who was following Lord Am Mo. Not only was he not angry, he even invited her in with a smile. This series of actions was really confusing, but Duan Qian understood. Not only could he not offend this Miss Gu, but he should also try his best to befriend her. Hence, when he heard Gu Yundong's question, he said very gently, "Yes, we do have the intention to buy this shop. I wonder if Miss Gu has the intention to sell it. We can negotiate the price." Gu Yundong shook her head. "I don't intend to sell this shop. Besides, it was given to me by someone else. If I sell it, wouldn't I be letting them down?" Gu Yundong was telling the truth and did not hint anything. However, Duan Qian's expression changed slightly. Someone gave it to her. Who would dare to give away the shop that the imperial court had confiscated? It could only be the imperial court. Duan Qian instantly put away all his thoughts and changed the topic. "In that case, it seems that we can only look elsewhere." He looked helpless. He turned around and saw the Yu father and son. He then looked at the relatively neat shop and asked curiously, "Miss Gu, are you planning to open for business? What kind of business are you doing? If you need me, just tell me. The Duan family can still be of use in Wanqing Prefecture." Gu Yundong actually wanted to be on good terms with the Duan family, especially when Duan Qian's attitude was very friendly. After all, she was going to leave soon. If the three members of the Yu family opened a shop in such a prosperous area, they would easily be targeted if they did not have any backing. Young Master Duan came at the right time. Hence, Gu Yundong asked Tong Shui Tao to tidy up the tables and chairs. After inviting Duan Qian and Duan Wan to sit down, she said, "I do plan to tidy up and open for business." "Oh. Will you continue to sell satin and cloth, or tea and wine? Or maybe jewelry?" Chapter 500, Gu Yundong is not an ordinary person. Gu Yundong was silent. "Is that all you can think of?" She looked at Duan Qian and his sister, whose eyes were curious, and said, "It's going to be a grocery store." Duan Qian was speechless. The commotion on the street outside was a little loud, and he didn't seem to have heard her clearly. Duan Wan stood up directly. "What did you say? A grocery store? You're using such a good shop in such a good location as a grocery store." Duan Qian suddenly reacted and pulled her. Wan, don't be rude." Duan Wan snorted angrily and suddenly turned her head away, not saying anything else. Gu Yundong laughed. "It's precisely because the location is good that it's used as a grocery store. I looked at the entire street. There are only 2 grocery stores, and they're small and incomprehensive. People need it urgently." Duan Qian thought for a moment. He had really not noticed this. The Duan family was mainly in the tea business. Of course, they had dabbled in other businesses, but he really didn't have a grocery store. As for whether it was convenient for shopping or not, with their status, they would not care. There were servants who would do it. Now that he heard Gu Yundong's words, it made sense. "Young Master Duan, are you looking down on my small grocery store?" Gu Yundong asked with a smile. Duan Qian immediately shook his head. "Of course not. It's just unexpected. Will young Master Duan still take care of our small grocery store?" Miss Gu is too humble. No matter what, we've met twice. I'm thick-skinned enough to call myself your friend. Friends naturally take care of each other. Thank you very much. Gu Yundong then introduced the Yu father and son. These are Uncle Yu and Brother Eugene. They will manage this shop from now on. Uncle Yu, you heard what young Master Duan said. If you encounter any trouble in the future, feel free to look for him. We are friends. Duan Qian, I didn't expect you to be so good at climbing up the ladder. The corners of Duan Wan's mouth twitched. Couldn't this woman tell that he was just being polite? Uncle Yu was a little excited and nervous, and his palms were sweating. Although he had gotten used to it, he had never interacted with someone of Duan Qian's status. Hello, young Master Duan. Im Yu Yanghong. Please take care of me. Duan Qian stood up. Manager Yu, you're too polite. He had heard that Lady Gu addressed the Yu father and son as uncle and brother. In other words, she did not treat them as ordinary subordinates. They had a deeper bond. He looked at Gu Yundong. Miss Gu, do you mean to leave Wanqing Prefecture? Yes, I'll leave after a while. I might come over occasionally in the future. The next time I come, I'll bring something for young Master Duan. Perhaps we can work together. Duan Qian was stunned. She was indeed not from Wanqing Prefecture. However, he quickly became interested in the collaboration she mentioned. He wanted to know more, but Gu Yundong did not elaborate. The two of them exchanged a few polite words. Duan Qian left a jade token and told Uncle Yu to look for him if anything happened. Then, he left. To be able to leave behind a jade token was already very sincere. Gu Yundong walked them out. Looking at their backs as they spoke at the door, Uncle Yu heaved a sigh of relief and said, no wonder the Gu girl could protect her mother and younger siblings all the way to the Shuana Prefecture in such a difficult environment. She even got a shop and servants in just half a year. This girl is not an ordinary person. Eugene nodded and looked down at the jade pendant in his hand. Father, this. Chapter 501, Shop Sections. Uncle Yu also took a look, then carefully put away the jade token. This jade token is a favor from the Duan family. It can only be used for a limited number of times. If we can solve the trouble, we'll solve it ourselves. Unless we really have no choice, we won't look for the Duan family. Eugene understood, but the fighting spirit in his heart was getting higher and higher. That's right. The younger sister of the Gu family was 2 years younger than him, but she was so capable. Now that his starting point was already so high, he would definitely be able to achieve something. Gu Yundong returned and saw that Uncle Yu and his son had begun to clean the shop diligently again. She went to the backyard. Gu Dajiang had been very worried about what had happened in front of the shop. He seemed to hear a few unfamiliar voices. He almost could not help but go over to take a look. When he saw Gu Yundong return, he hurriedly asked, what happened ahead? It's nothing. It's just that someone wants to buy our shop, so I rejected them. They didn't make things difficult for you, did they? No, we even became friends. Gu Dajiang felt that his Yundong was really amazing. He was so proud of her. The shop was quickly tidied up. Gu Yundong looked at the cabinets in front of him. These cabinets were all erected against the wall. They were used to store all kinds of cloth. Now, they could be used to store bottles and jars, so it was not easy to bump into them. The shop also sold ready-made clothes. There were a few shelves made of wooden poles to hang clothes. Now, they were placed there to hang dried meat and fish. There was also a cubicle next to it for fitting. However, in this day and age, there were not many people trying on clothes outside, so this cubicle was piled with some things. What Gu Yundong meant was that the cubicle could be torn down so that the space could become larger. At that time, they could split the entire shop into several areas. Food such as oil, salt, soy sauce, vinegar, rice, ginger, garlic, wine, tea, and snacks would all be placed in this area. There was an area for daily necessities. There were pots, pans, knitted shoes, hats, bamboo baskets, boxes, various tools, cheaper brushes, ink, paper, and inkstones, as well as kites and spinning tops for children. In that case, the space was even a little small. However, in the beginning, they would do it one step at a time. It was just that with so many things, if he wanted to tidy them up, he would need to build a few cabinets and shelves. Yundong thought of Carpenter Tan. Although he did not like to talk, he was efficient. She handed this matter to Uncle Yu. They were familiar with Carpenter Tan. The group of people planned the shop. Everyone would write down any good suggestions they thought of. Everyone would express their opinions and consolidate them when the time came. In the end, when the proposal was out, the shop could be renovated. After the discussion, everyone realized that it was already very late. The sky was about to darken. However, everyone still felt unsatisfied. The sense of accomplishment of slowly filling the empty shop with everyone's thoughts made them feel especially satisfied. Yundong led everyone to eat, then asked Xue Rong to drive Uncle Yu and the rest back in a carriage. The 3 members of the Yu family were very excited. Not only did they talk about this along the way, but Uncle Yu had also thought of where to buy the cheapest goods. When they reached home, Uncle Yu did not even enter the house. He went straight to Carpenter Tan's house. Uncle Yu thought for a moment and did not go back. He turned around and entered Grandpa Zhang's courtyard next door. Grandpa Zhang and his family were having dinner. Seeing him come in, Grandpa Zhang started to tremble. He quickly moved a stool for him. Yang Hong, are you here too? Chapter 502, Hiring the Zhang family's first son. Grandpa Zhang was so excited that he couldn't speak, and the Zhang family looked at him in confusion. Uncle Yu knew what he meant and nodded. We went to see that shop today. It's indeed not bad. It's a little far from here, but it's fine, it's fine. Distance is not a problem. It's still in the city. Uncle Yu said, I haven't finished speaking. All right. Tell me, I won't interrupt you. The Zhang family looked at Grandpa Zhang with a strange expression. Uncle Yu also felt that he might have come to the wrong place. He had never known that Grandpa Zhang's personality could be like this. Letting out a breath, he thought about leaving as soon as possible. What I mean is that the shop has a backyard. If it's too late and you can't come back in time, you can stay there for the night. That's good. I'm fine with it. Grandpa Zhang was even happier. He wanted to say that commute would truly be a problem for his old arms and legs. He didn't expect there to be a place to stay. That would be easy. Uncle Yu looked at him and found it hard to explain. But Grandpa Zhang, we want to hire another person. We plan to hire Brother Zhang. What? Grandpa Zhang's expression changed in a second. He suddenly stood up and raised his voice. What did you say? The Zhang family finally understood. The person called Brother Zhang widened his eyes and asked in disbelief, Yang Hong, do you mean that your family is going to open a shop now? Do you even plan to hire me as a shop assistant? I do have such plans. That shop belongs to the Gu family. They want to take care of our family. However, the shop is indeed big. I know that Brother Zhang is diligent, honest, and tolerant. I thought that if you're willing, you can go to the shop to help. Brother Zhang's eyes lit up and he instantly straightened his back. I'm willing, of course I'm willing. The Zhang family completely understood and were immediately overjoyed, especially Brother Zhang's wife. When she heard that her man had found a stable job, her eyes turned red. The others were very envious, but they were also happy for him. If Brother Zhang worked in the shop, the entire family would benefit. Grandpa Zhang was the only one left. He snorted coldly and turned his back to everyone. He squatted on the ground and sulked. Uncle, you didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Grandpa Zhang, we didn't mean to make things difficult for you. It's just that this job requires strength. I hired Brother Zhang to go elsewhere to collect the goods. There are many places to go every day. I know Grandpa Zhang is young and strong, but I'm afraid of exhausting you, right? Grandpa Zhang's wife couldn't help but kick his foot. All right, don't you know how old you are? You're panting after taking a few steps. You still want to follow them everywhere. Aren't you afraid of falling sick from exhaustion? When the time comes, even if you earn money, you won't be able to live to enjoy it. Wake up, didn't the Yu family hire our first son? If you continue to have such a bad expression, what will happen to you if he loses the job? Grandpa Zhang immediately stood up from the ground. That won't do. Yang Hong, you promised me that you would hire my first son. Of course. Only then did Grandpa Zhang become happy. Forget it. If his son went to do it, so be it. He could also show off to others. However, there was no time for him to show off. When Uncle Yu went to Carpenter Tan to talk about this, someone happened to come to look for Carpenter Tan to order something and heard Uncle Ye's words from beginning to end. The neighbors in this area instantly knew that Gu Dajiang's family had opened a shop and handed it to the Yu family to manage. Chapter 503, Barraged. More importantly, this shop was located in the center of the prefectural city. It was the best location in the city. It was said that the shop was very big, the size of 2 grocery stores. Alright, everyone was in an uproar. Then, they swarmed towards the Yu family's house. They were so crowded at the door that they could fight. All of them used the best eloquence in their lives to recommend themselves desperately, wanting to work in that shop. Until Uncle Yu told everyone in a regretful tone that he had already hired the eldest son of the Zhang family next door. Everyone was stunned for a moment before they started scolding old Zhang. I wondered why he was hypocritically telling us not to spout nonsense this morning. Did he already know about it? That's right. Wasn't he at old Ye's house in the morning? He must have heard the entire process. I saw Yang Hong go to old Zhang's house just now. Oh my, if I had known, I would have stopped him. All of them instantly scolded the pretentious old man Zhang. Therefore, when he gathered his emotions and planned to go out to brag and tell everyone that his son had got a job, he was almost beaten up by his neighbors. When the 3 members of the Yu family heard the commotion outside, they all smiled and went to bed to rest. In the following days, Gu Yundong and the Yu family began to renovate the provision store. The eldest son of the Zhang family also came to help. He was indeed diligent. Carpenter Tan sent over all kinds of sturdy shelves in a few days. Everyone was in high spirits and set them up one by one. In an instant, the place became decent. Gu Dajiang had come once. He had been forced by Gu Yundong to recuperate in the inn. Now that his wound had already scabbed over, it was just itchy and uncomfortable. Sometimes, Gu Dajiang couldn't help but grab it, and it would bleed. Gu Yundong asked Xue Rong to keep an eye on him. She even wrapped Gu Dajiang's 10 fingers in gauze. Gu Dajiang didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at his thick fingers. He didn't expect such a day to come for him. During the renovation of the shop, Duan Qian came twice. Gu Yundong found this person quite interesting and even invited him to the Xuanhe prefecture when he was free. Unexpectedly, Duan Qian agreed. I do want to make a trip to the Xuanhe prefecture. I heard that someone started manufacturing and selling white sugar in that place. Gu Yundong, who had created white sugar, was speechless. She could only touch her nose and laugh dryly. Duan Wan had never been here. Anyway, Gu Yundong felt that she was making a fuss. Perhaps because there was no pressure from the Axayan family, as the young lady of the Duan family, she was a little arrogant. After the shop was renovated, Uncle Yu brought the eldest son of the Zhang family to the countryside to collect things, including eggs, food, and some daily necessities. He had already contacted the providers a few days ago. Now that he had given them money, he could just bring them back. On the first day of business, Yundong invited the lion dance team over to have a good time. Most importantly, she had invited Duan Qian over. As the heir of the Duan clan, Duan Qian's face was not unfamiliar in this city. Everyone who came to watch the show knew that the Duan family was endorsing the shop. Originally, some of the wealthy families in the city who wanted to buy this shop, and even the small officials and generals with some power, had all given up their thoughts now. Instead, they openly bought some gifts to congratulate the shopkeeper on opening. It was just that when they saw the shop's plaque, they were a little speechless. Why, was this a grocery store? Chapter 504, Leaving. Why wasn't it a slightly higher-end shop? Everyone was puzzled, but this did not stop the grocery store's business from booming. It was only the first day and there was already an endless stream of people coming and going in the grocery store. When it was time to settle the accounts at night, they actually earned 100 taels of silver. This was a grocery store. The profits were not high to begin with, but there was actually such a gratifying result in a day. Nowadays, Eugene was the one who kept the accounts in the shop. Uncle Yu did not know many words, so it was too difficult to keep the accounts. The Yu family was overjoyed. Seeing how excited they were, Yundong simply brought everyone to the restaurant for a meal to celebrate. Of course, it could also be considered as a farewell party. She planned to leave. When the Yu family heard this, their joy decreased by more than half. Uncle Yu frowned even more. You're leaving just like that? Isn't that a little too fast? Has Dajiang recovered from his injuries? Didn't you say last time that he would need to recuperate for half a month? That's right, girl. Why don't you stay for a few more days? This shop has only opened for a day. You have to wait until it stabilizes before going back, right? Sister Gu, I'm a little uncertain now that you're leaving. Even the eldest son of the Zhang family, who had always been very quiet, put down his chopsticks and advised, wait a few more days. Yundong laughed. You're too humble. Although I was in the grocery store today, I didn't speak or help from the beginning to the end. No matter what happened or who you met, you were the ones who were busy. Moreover, you were methodical and clear. I think it's very impressive. You can do it. But, it was too sudden. Perhaps they had been too engrossed in chatting previously and working together to come up with ideas. Unknowingly, so many days had passed. They did not realize that the Gu family was about to leave. In the end, Uncle Yu waved his hand. Forget it. Your home is in the Xuanhe prefecture, and your family is there. Dajiang has been longing to see his wife and children. He has been waiting for so long. If not for the fact that he needs to recuperate, I think he would have rushed back. Especially these few days, he keeps saying that he has recovered. He's extremely anxious. Dajiang felt a little embarrassed by his words, but he really missed them. He had not seen them for more than half a year. He wondered if they had forgotten about him. The meal was a little sad. Before leaving, Yundong told Eugene about his aunt and uncle, as well as his uncle, who were still missing. I've pasted their portraits on the notice board. I'll leave two for you. The address on this is the grocery store. If anyone comes looking for me, send me a letter. Eugene took the portrait carefully. Don't worry, Sister Gu. I'll get my father to ask around when he collects goods. If there's any news, I'll inform you immediately. Thanks a lot. Eugene pursed his lips. We should be the ones thanking you. Sister Gu, take care. I'll keep an eye on this shop and record the accounts. I'll wait for you to come back and review them. Okay. Yundong laughed. After leaving the restaurant, the two sides parted ways. After returning to the inn, the few of them began to organize their things, planning to leave Wanqing Prefecture the next day. Hearing that they were leaving, the waiter of the inn was actually a little reluctant. After all, they had already stayed here for a month and a half, and Miss Gu was a generous person. If he helped her, he would be rewarded with silver. He had already cultivated a deep friendship with her, and he almost thought that they were living in the inn forever.